Chirp, chirp, chirp. Hi, this is Eva from Once Upon a Timeline. Off to a good start, we can see already. Okay, just a little bit of world news today. Not that much going on. It's mostly the same baloney, different day when it comes to that stuff. Doesn't look like I got my setup very good either. All right, a little bit better. I just am not well prepared today, but I do have a fair amount of actual MEs, even though there's not much on world news. Okay, so a bunch of just kind of the typical baloney over here in California. They're still saying the cases are up. They stopped talking about the positivity rate because it went down a little bit, and since that was good news, they can't talk about that anymore. All right, so our crazy governor has decided that he will, man, this station's got a bunch of advertising, has decided that he gets to decide what we eat. Kind of exaggerating, but it's still ridiculous. So I've probably mentioned that the thing in California now is that outside is safe and inside is unsafe. So it's a reverse of stay inside. Now it's stay outside. And bars had to close again. But they can stay open if they serve outside and they serve food. So everybody's scrambling to throw all their dinner tables out on the street now and in the parking lots so that they can still serve. And so bars want to serve food, but of course the Gavin Newsom bar food police are being all whiny now and saying that you can't just serve kind of food, like this doesn't count as a meal. Cheese sticks, calamari, chicken wings, pizza bites, egg rolls, pot stickers, sandwiches, salad, prepackaged sandwiches. Okay, I can see prepackaged sandwiches being a little borderline, but prepackaged salads, isn't that like all of McDonald's food is prepackaged? I don't think you're going out in the backyard and picking the lettuce yourself, so there's always going to be a bunch of prepackaging. Anyway, it's just kind of another thorn in people's side is that not only is he shut down places, but he keeps moving the goalposts, making it hard. Heaven forbid that he should help out any of these starving bar people and restaurants and stuff. Anyway, just kind of pissed me off a little bit. It's so petty. Just let people open. All right. The other weird thing is, I mentioned this kind of before. They were saying, that the sea apparently causes like every disease known to man now: stroke, heart attack, COVID toes, rash, brain damage, lung damage, dabba dabba dabba. All right, so it also apparently they're saying it causes Kawasaki disease. Okay, here is the thing about Kawasaki disease. It is known to be triggered by other ailments. So if you get a nasty flu, if you get hepatitis, if you get meningitis, whatever, there's some kind of an immune system problem, and it is known to be often triggered by some other illness that you recover from, but now you have this inflammatory disorder called Kawasaki disease. So it was kind of ridiculous when they said that COVID causes Kawasaki disease, because any illness causes Kawasaki disease. Any virus, any bacteria, any problem whatsoever is associated with Kawasaki disease, not just the C. So they made it sound like it was just the C. So people were coming forward, like some of the UK epidemiologists were saying, look, the cases of Kawasaki disease have not increased since the C. So there's not like this epidemic of Kawasaki from the sea. So now I just noticed this week that they're calling it, they've got a new thing, they're calling it multi-system inflammatory disorder. So this is kind of weird because it's basically sounds like Kawasaki disease, and it's like there's no real distinctive difference between Kawasaki disease, except for there's certain, it says like stomach ailments are more common, but not everybody has them if they have this multi-system inflammatory disorder. And some people with Kawasaki disease also get stomach pain and stuff. So it doesn't really separate them. And then they're like, oh, well, some of the people who have this multi-system inflammatory disorder also tested positive for antibodies of the CE, but as we studied last week, the antibody test is especially janky. So this is very suspicious to me. It's like now they've got their own special disorder, and it's basically like a subset of Kawasaki disease people. I think it's kind of another. I'm really suspicious of this. It's kind of another thing they're trying to say that the C causes, when it really doesn't look like it's clearly separate from Kawasaki disease, and anything can cause Kawasaki disease. So, and then they're saying it's caused by, I mean, as far as I can tell, this multi-system inflammatory disorder did not exist until just recently. Like, there's no old studies on it or anything. So they're basically picked out a subset of the Kawasaki disease people that most of them had the C before, and then they're saying it's a separate illness from the Kawasaki, even though it's still an inflammatory disorder caused by a virus like Kawasaki is, and most of the symptoms are the same, and there's no one symptom that is in one and not the other. So as far as I'm concerned, it's still freaking Kawasaki disease, but now they've got this special disease, and here's the thing, here's the little fear porn fork in the side, is that this particular ailment is common in children. So now they can say, okay, well, kids don't usually get sick from the C, but then they could get this multi-system, what did they call it? It's such a long word. Anyways, multi-system inflammatory disorder. Yes, that's the words. So, I don't know, it seems to me like another fear porn thing. So this thing is extremely rare. Kawasaki's disease is extremely rare. And so is this multi-system inflammatory disorder is extremely rare. But I bet the way they're going to spin it, it's going to sound really dangerous and scary. In New York, up to 102 children have reportedly developed this inflammatory syndrome, and 3 children have died from it in the state as of Wednesday. So 3 have died from it. They don't give a time frame. I mean, a couple people die from it at least every year. Other cases have been reported in Washington, California. Well, yeah, Kawasaki is reported in every state. Some kids do die from it. This up to 102 children, so that could be like one child is, I mean, it's super vague. It seems like another fear porn baloney to me. That they kind of trotted this out. They can add it to the giant list of, I'm telling you, I'm still waiting for the C to actually cause the cancer, because I give it a couple more months, and it's the only thing the C doesn't cause yet, because it's like every flu symptom: stomach, intestines, heart, kidney, liver, any organ you have, you got rash, brain problems. Is there anything it doesn't cause? It's like the most amazing virus in the history of the ever, that you can't tell it apart from hundreds of other illnesses. Anyway, it's just whack. So I just had to complain about it. Yeah, they're trying to scare people, because the thing has been like that, kids hardly ever get sick from it, and their chances of death are like super, super, super tiny, so let them go to freaking school. Oh, no, we can't have that. Autistic. Somebody give me... I am... Autistic Savannah, did you really give me $50, or is it Australian 50? I'm not sure, but it sounds like a lot of money, so thank you. I am OCD frustrated not knowing what the painting is behind you. Do you care to share? Okay, let me see what you can see first. Boink. Let me just look what's behind me. All right. All right. I think all you can see. It's big. See if I can turn it so you can see it. And if I make that bigger and I tip it, you might be able to kind of see it. Okay, so what it is, you can't really see it. It's let me remind myself exactly what's in there. Yeah, okay. There's like an ocean that's all placid and a little boat and some dirt and some plants and stuff. So it's pretty boring. It's just something that my that I kind of inherited it, and everything in this room has like a very nice gold edging on the frame, and so the frame matched really well. So that's one of the reasons it's still in here, and it's actually a painting. It's not like a print or stuff, and so that's one of the other reasons it got to stay. My mom actually had tons of stuff all over the place, and so I got rid of most of the cheap prints and stuff, and I kept the paintings, because the other reason is I'm not going to get what they're worth at a garage sale. I mean, paintings usually go for a decent amount, so in order to get a decent price of what they're worth, you kind of have to put effort in. You can't just put them out at the garage sale. So anyway, yeah, what do we got in here? We've got that little boat dinghy thing, some white peacocks. I've got another painting that's I think that's some New York bridge thing. There's one author that's kind of somewhat well known. I looked up all these authors, and I have 2 paintings of that guy. I have no idea. I would probably sell them, but I have no idea how to get what they're worth. So I think that's all the paintings in this room. Those 2, that one, the only change I've really seen in that one is the sky in the back's gotten more pinkish. The change in the peacocks, a few of the flowers have a little more color. I'm not sure on any of the others. There's only certain ones I watch really, really carefully. It actually takes a lot of attention to watch, to kind of inspect every aspect of a painting and try to notice the little changes as they sneak by. Live streaming, here we go. So yeah, anyways, hopefully that OCD will, it's actually really big, or I would take it down for you. Ooh, did somebody give me another $50? It looks like you gave me 250, whatever those are. All right, anyway, who's in? Floor Candia, Jumping Ship. That's funny, Jumping Ship, and I'm talking about a ship. Futuristic. Is broke till payday. Well, that's fine. Don't send me any money then. You should keep it for yourself. Franco 787. Bill Knight. Franco 787. I do not remember you. The Emmys are slowing down. Yeah, I don't know. It was really slow a couple weeks ago. Now it's kind of medium. Sometimes it might be chance what I find that week, though. Like, I don't know, maybe these are from last month. These are ones I'm not 100%. There have been some recent changes in the last few weeks around my city. I went down this street that, it's this big long street. There was a restaurant we used to always eat at. So we learned that if you get in the left lane, because it keeps branching off, right? And you don't want to keep having to change lanes. Oh, now it's only right turns only. Now it's left turns only. So we learned that if you get in the farthest left lane at this one street and stay in that lane the whole way, then the branches off, you will never be caught in any of the branches. So like about a year ago, I found that no longer worked. Like, it's all the same old pavement, no fresh pavement or anything, but suddenly you had to jump over once, which was never the case before. So I knew that road changed a little bit. But the last time now I went on it last week, and I had to keep jumping a bunch of times. Just jumping over once wasn't enough. There was a bunch of areas where it became a one-lane road, which was never the case before. It was always 2 lanes all the way down. Now it's 1 lane. There's a bunch of, I don't know, the whole thing looks really strange. So, not the whole thing, but the far end of it looks really strange, where it becomes a one lane road. So, there's a lot of changes there. Nothing, there's just certain areas I'm like, there's nothing really special about them. They just weren't there before. The houses look different. The landscaping looks different. And that's a fairly new change. I mean, I've been there, I go down that way a couple times a month. So, and the restaurant we used to eat at is now closed because it was a buffet, and there's no way for buffets to operate in California right now. Because you have to be sit down, so they can't even do cafeteria style where they dish the food out to you, because you're not allowed to be walking around. Even if you have your mask on, you have to go straight and sit down. So it's stupid. Anyway, there's that complaining. All right, who else is in here? Futuristic, yes, got you. Mark, Tough 10-4, hello. The thumbnail thing, I'll get to it because it's Mandela. Shari D's in. Welcome. One of yours, Mandelas, is going to be in too, Shari. And Adela has a huge ME. B.E. Mitchell. Katie B. Ever heard of the 1919 New York Pyramid? Nope. Remind me later. I'll look at it. Let's see. Let me just write it down because I'm sort of in COVID mode a little bit. 1919 New York Pyramid. All right, I'll get back to it. I'm out of here. Go wear your stupid mask and give in to the enemies. What? I don't even know what your problem is, Stavely. Nobody wants to wear a mask here. I didn't see anybody say to wear a mask. I don't know what you got to lay off the smoking, dude. I don't know anybody in here wants to wear a mask. Except for the governor of California, and he ain't here. Let's see. At first I thought it was a window frame. That's how bad my eyesight is. Oh, yeah. Well, it's nighttime here, so it would just be black if it was a window. Close to 0 influenza cases in Australia. Yes, I covered that last week. I was like, last year was like thousands and thousands, and this year is like 33. It's like ridiculous. So, like, the cure to influenza is to get the C, apparently. On one hand, I think there's evidence that it's a pandemic, but I have a family member almost die from it, so I can't dismiss that. Well, see that it's tricky because every year people get some people get a flu and almost die, or they get something and they almost die. And my mom had, she had some kind of what was it? What do you call it? Hepatitis. When some disease attacks your liver, they call it hepatitis. Hepatitis just means kind of like liver inflammation. But it wasn't any of the ABC ones that they can test for, and they knew she didn't have that. So they're like, oh, well, it could be this or it could be that. And, every year some people get that kind of thing, or some flu or pneumonia. One of my friends 3-4 years ago got really nasty pneumonia, and he was really, really sick. And pneumonia kills people his age, and because he has diabetes. So it happens every year. So now, what if instead of calling it pneumonia, they called it COVID? Okay, because usually you don't just get pneumonia by itself. Usually you get like the flu, because they say that pneumonia lives in your lungs all the time, and it's your own weakened immune system that lets the pneumonia take over. It's kind of a vaguey thing, they say. So what if instead of saying like 3 years ago, he almost died from pneumonia, or he was really sick from pneumonia. What if they said, well, he was really sick from the sea? Okay, and the sea caused the pneumonia, not the flu caused pneumonia. Because when he was really sick years ago, they didn't say he almost died from the flu. They said he almost died from pneumonia because the flu let him get pneumonia. Is okay. So, how many people really die from the sea, or did you just get the sea and then you got pneumonia? From what I can tell, almost nobody actually dies from pneumonia. They get the sea and then other things get them. So, is it any different than years gone by that now people are dying from pneumonia and they say the sea caused it? That's why I'm looking at all cause deaths. Okay, I see they're up in some places. They're up some. They're not up like a humongous amount where I don't think it's up where you can call it a pandemic. I can say death rates are up. In some places, they're not up as much as they were in 2017. And other places, they're up quite a bit, like New York. In some places, like New York, they're like double. But I mean, if the death rate is this big, and now we've doubled the death rate, and it's double this big, it's still really tiny. I mean, I don't see how it's anywhere worth what we're going through here with this shutdown and everything. The way that they're portraying it is unrealistic. I do think something's getting people more than normal. I do agree with that. I just don't see how it's that different from years gone by that, I mean, we've had so many worse things in our history and they didn't shut down the planet. So I guess it could be six of one, half dozen of the other. Then you got to look at a higher level. Okay, we're going through this crazy shifts. Reality is switching faster and faster. The physical body is changing. I mean, is this C thing kind of basically a cover for reality shifts? Some people just can't make the transition, or they went to a different timeline and they're not in our timeline anymore. So there's so many things going on. The pandemic thing, okay. That one's tricky for me. There is a lot of evidence for the pandemic. I think it's obvious that the news is not portraying what's happening realistically as far as the data is available, at least the data we are able to see. Why is it that they're ignoring that data? Are they just physically incapable of seeing it? Is it a secret New World Order plot? Is it because most of reality is just a screen, a movie set, and that's the programming for the movie right now? I don't know. I tend to think kind of the latter. Like, if you look at what happens with the sea, so we have this shutdown. At the same time, I'm hearing a lot of people have weird physical symptoms. Like they don't have the sea, but they're tired in waves. They got weird headaches. They feel weird. They're having trouble concentrating. You could probably write off some of that to just like the fear of all the weird stuff that's happening. But we were talking about this for the last few years. So maybe the lockdown in part is because people need that time to adjust to what's going on, not just at the fear level of what's on the news, but just as a spiritual level. Is it also a way to split people into the people who are going to the new place and the people who are going to another place? There's so many aspects to consider. So I personally don't think that we're going to be like the worst case scenario on either side is going to happen. I certainly do not think that the sea is going to shatter society. I don't think there's nearly enough evidence. If you look in most countries, it has an ordinary bell-shaped curve of how many people get it, and then it drops. In almost every country, it acts like a normal, milder, maybe nastier than normal flu, but it acts like a flu. All right, so in this country, there's a lot of weird stuff about how things are reported, how they're labeled. Australia has seen that too. Somehow Australia has no flus now, and they're all sea deaths or sea sickness, the sea, the big sea. So there's something funny going on in some of the countries, so it's very hard to chart the progress. But anyway, I really don't think, yes, every year some people get really sick and die, and we who are still here hate that. I suspect that they're in a better place, so it's not that bad for them, but we miss them. That won't change whether the C is here or not. Whether you want to call it the C, pneumonia, or the flu, that is going to continue probably for at least some time. So that's how I look at it. The death rate's not up enough to shut down the world. Every year there's people who get sick. There always have been. I don't see anybody around here getting any more flu-like symptoms. If anything, like nobody has the flu around here. It's actually kind of, I don't know if the lockdown has anything to do with it, but like nobody's sick from the flu. I mean, I got people who are sick from cancer. What else was it? Cancer. I'm thinking about people who died lately. There was some weird freak accidents. A couple heart attacks just went through. None of them tested positive for COVID. So there have been kind of a lot of deaths, but not COVID. So I think there's something going on. I just don't think it's what's classically called the C. I don't think that's what's ultimately behind it. Prepare for another lockdown. It will be permanent. You must be tested and getting the upcount vax, which is the yeah. I think that's going to be the plot line is going to trundle in that direction. I think there's a whole bunch of foreshadowing. It's almost like nowadays you can just listen to the news and whatever they're afraid of is probably what's going to happen. I've been really thinking about this. The more people believe it, that may give it more power. So all these people, like, you got the news constantly going, oh, I hope there's not another, what if there's another second wave? Oh, if these protests keep up, take your pick, the GOP or the BLM or the anti-lockdown or the whatever protests. There's going to be a second wave. They've been talking about the second wave before we even finished. Well, they were talking about another lockdown, and we hadn't even started the first lockdown. And first it was flattening the curve. Then it was don't end too early because you'll have to do it. You'll have to do another lockdown. And then suddenly it was the second wave. So I think we're going to get that kind of plot line, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people are super fearful of. I think there'll be pressure to do certain things. I think there'll be ways around it. There'll continue to be division. I don't think it's going to be like 1984, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of blind people. And I also think a lot of people are going to start waking up because of all that stuff. So I think that we'll see those two. I think we'll see those two plot lines. I mean, if you look at the Bible thing, if they were going to hold you down and stick the vaccine in your hand, then that would be a waste of the time for the Bible to say, do not get the mark of the beast, because you wouldn't have a choice. So because the Bible says don't get the mark of the beast and don't worship the beast, there's going to be an option to follow that and to take that advice. So we just need to watch for our routes around the problem. I mean, look at what's happened so far. Some people do have some economic problems, but interestingly, not a large percentage of people on my channel, people I know in my life, everybody seems to have got mostly set up so they don't take the brunt of the problem. So that's it. I find that interesting. And I think this may have been always kind of a foreordained thing that was going to come down the chute for years now. And knowing that on some level, we each positioned ourselves that we would be in the right place when that happened. So I do tend to think along that line. I don't think it's all random. And I think we can continue to place ourselves in the right places to dodge the worst. And double thank you, Autistic Savant. Is it still ducks? Cases, not fatality. Yeah, all I talk about is cases now. The C deaths have gone down countrywide in the United States. If you look at it, it went up and then it's still a little above average, not a ton. I mean, statistically above norm for this time, but it's not like way above norm. We had 13 fatalities here in Australia. Victoria, Australia, I assume you're going to say. I mean, and how many people die daily in that location normally? I mean, I was looking at the car accident statistics globally, and they're still way higher than the sea deaths. And that's even with the funny math. Oh, you know, there was one thing I was going to mention. They were a number of channels have been talking about this. So apparently in the UK, and I was trying to kind of figure out if it wasn't just the UK, like who all's doing this. Okay, so in the UK, if you test positive for the C, all right, it goes on your record. Okay, and it even could be antibodies. You know, you may not even test positive PCR. It could be just antibodies. So maybe you had it 3 months ago, but you tested positive. Okay, so it goes on your record, and it never goes off. So like 3 months later, if you get hit by a car and you had the C, it goes on as a C death, even though you're totally and utterly recovered. You know, the C had nothing to do with it. I mean, there was kind of a stink recently because somebody had a motorcycle accident and they said that they died from the C because they tested positive. Well, first of all, these tests, a lot of them, especially the rapid ones, are already known to be kind of janky and a little unreliable. So you don't even know if he really had that. And you get hit by a freaking car, it's probably not a C death. It's just like how Floyd, the guy with all the protests are about, you know, assuming that was real, there's argument about if that was staged, but assuming it was real, then he obviously died from somebody stomping on his neck. But he'll go down as a C death because he had the C when he died. And obviously, that wasn't the main cause, you know. Okay, so if you look at UK, then you get C on your record, and there is no time frame when after that positivity you stop. Like they don't cut it off. So 3 months ago you tested positive. Maybe you test. When did they start testing? February. So if you test positive in February and you die now of any cause, you are a C death. They're counting it. So the longer time passes and the more and more testing you do, then more and more ordinary deaths are going to be C deaths. So if you have a heart attack because you have coronary artery disease 6 months after you tested positive for C, in the UK it's a C death. There's no cutoffs. So the C deaths are going to go up. The more people they test that they can get to be positive, and all they have to do is wait for those people to kick the bucket from any reason, and now that's a C death. So the more testing they do, the more C deaths you're going to get just from all-cause deaths, heart attacks, Alzheimer's, car accidents. So the deaths will be going up forever because sooner or later, like anybody who ever dies, it's going to be a C death. I mean, they had the C 6 months ago with no symptoms, and now, you know, somebody shoots them in the head. You know, so it's like ridiculous. They've got to have some kind of cutoff. And I'm trying to figure out what other states are also doing this. Like, is there the California states doing it? Because they were saying before that in order to be counted as a C case, you had to have a PCR positive or some kind of positive test in California. But then recently I looked at the counts and it said includes presumptive positives. So suddenly at some point, either there was a timeline shift or there was a policy shift, because now presumptives positives are counted in the cases. And presumptive positives do not have a positive test result. They're just presumptive because they were, like, say, near somebody who had it or had the sniffles and a headache or whatever. They were any association. So for any one tested positive, there could be like 15 presumptive positives. So if there's like a big jump in cases, and if at the same time they change how they're tallying the cases to make that jump, then that explains a lot. There's a big jump in cases because now there's, for every one positive test, there's 16 cases because 15 of them are presumptive. So you can just see how all these numbers are fishy, fishy, fishy. Super, super fishy. So anyways, okay, there's my giant rant. I don't listen to Ike. His name says it all. You know, those guys, I don't get how sometimes I find them interesting because they have information. They have like studies. They point out weird stuff I hadn't heard of before. Ideas maybe I hadn't totally heard of. But I don't just sit there and like shovel in all their assumptions, beliefs, the way they spin everything together. I just use them as a stepping off point, and then I go my own way from them. Because what they do is they come up with interesting little pieces of info, and then they string them together with their own bias. And it's not like I do anything different. I've got my own bias on things. But what I do different is I don't say this is a fact. This is how it is. And I don't tell you like it's a foregone conclusion that and written in stone. And that's the difference with like Ike and those guys is I feel like they're just spinning kind of a yarn in between the facts. The facts are not enough to support their final conclusion. Now, if they sat there and go, this is an interesting theory, maybe, you know, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it. I just don't think that there's, for 99% of this, there's not enough evidence that you could sit there and say this is how it is. What do they say? It affects blood types differently, and the thing I think with that is my mother's blood type changed. Yeah, you know, that it seems like anything that becomes like any kind of crazy theory becomes reality. So the whole blood types are different thing was like a crazy theory, and now we're starting to see evidence of it. Planet X, aka Nibiru or Nibiru, or however you say it, was a crazy theory, and then suddenly the scientists were saying it was out there. I remember quite some time ago, like the new agey people were saying that DNA was changing. Your DNA was changing on a vibrational level, which was at the time the most ridiculous sounding stuff anybody had ever heard of. Then the ME came along, and I had to say, okay, yes, it's happening right in front of my face. So yeah, what the heck? I don't know. Anything could be true at this point. I really feel like anything could turn out to be true. In the official reality canon is true. Maybe it's just, we'll just have to see how the movie moves, how the plot line unfolds. It's just a mask. It's just for a little while. It's just until we trace people. It's just for a little while. It's just a cattle car. It will take you to a fun camp. It's just for... Yeah, you know, the whole thing, stories. I've become fascinated with the stories because from a Mandela perspective, I've watched the stories grow from a little seed to a huge, big story in our past. So something will start out as small, and I'll see it in our history, and I'll go, well, that's a Mandela. That wasn't like that before. But then as the years pass, the story grows, and it becomes more and more complicated and more fleshed out, and lately more and more awful a lot of the times. But I don't know, is it just different in this timeline and that really happened? Or is it just a story? So... a lot of these old stories now, I just don't know what to think. What happened in the war? World War II, we've seen that change drastically. So, I don't know. I look at all stories now as stories. I don't know if they're true. I don't know if they're not true. I don't know if they're just fear porn, how much they are, how much the fear itself causes it to happen. I mean, like, if you look at the sea thing, okay, the story they keep trying to push is, and they have this over and over, this guy didn't believe the sea was real, and then he got it and died from it. So it's like this fear porn. Don't doubt it, because then you'll get it and die from it. Like, just the doubt alone will make you, like, that stupid influencer guy licked the toilet and said he didn't believe in the sea, and then like 2 days later he's diagnosed with the sea. Well, he's fine, he didn't die or anything, but I'm like, really? 2 days afterwards you already got the sea and you're sick enough to get tested? And no, it's ridiculous. The whole story is ridiculous. So these other stories like 1984 and other horrible things, I don't know how much of a story they are. I mean, it's not like I'm going to lay down and jump in the cattle car. Keep your eye open. Don't deny what's in front of you, but don't assume either, I would say. I don't believe in the bad stuff too much. I think there's a danger in that, because if thoughts create reality and you're sure that bad things will happen to you, if you're sure, you can make that a reality. I do think that. So I'm going to sit on the fence, and I'll do my best to dodge any problems. And I'm not going to close my eyes to the situation. I will keep them open. But at the same time, I'm not going to assume the worst is going to happen. I'm going to look for the routes out. I think what you look for and what you concentrate on is what you find. So I'm going to be looking for my routes and my passages around problems, and I think that they'll be there. So I suggest everybody do the same. Whatever happens, look for your routes, look for the way through, and I think there will be routes through for those with eyes to see, for those who are looking. I think certain timelines will turn out better than others. So which timeline you want to go to? Think really hard about what you want to see in a timeline, and how great it would be to see that, because that's how you attract to that timeline. So we've got problems now, right? A lot of us don't have that bad of problems, but if you watch the news, it makes it sound really bad, okay? But I think for most people, our lives haven't changed that much when you really get down to it. So how has my life changed? I've got to wear a mask when I go into the restaurant. My favorite buffets are shut down. Some places I like to visit occasionally are closed. Not a huge, big old difference for me. A little bit of difference. Nothing that really affects my day-to-day life. So yeah, I can't say it's really bad for me personally. That's my current life. So look at it that way. Instead of watching the news and letting them tell you how your life is, and don't watch the fear porn channels only and let them tell you how your life will be. Look at how your life really is right now. That's what I suggest. And that is the only real reality for you, not what the news says and not what the fear porn channels say. The fact that most people are asymptomatic is so suspicious. Yes, yeah, like I said, this is like this virus that defies all logic or past history of vociferousness. So there's a bunch of asymptomatic people. So there's two options there, or it could be a combo. Two obvious options. I don't want to say there's only two. Maybe there's something I haven't thought of. But the only two I can think of is, one, this virus just isn't that bad and most people are totally fine. Or two, the testing sucks dog and all these people don't even have the freaking virus. So we've already covered last week that the rapid testing is really janky. But you also have to look at the PCR test, okay? There's no way to test the PCR test other than with more PCR tests, because we don't really... There's videos on this, but the sea hasn't really been totally isolated. It hasn't been isolated, grown in a petri dish, put back into another organism, and then that organism getting sick with the same symptoms. That has not been done. And that is the gold standard of understanding, isolating a virus and proving you've isolated it. And they haven't done that. So we don't really know what the PCR test is really testing for. We can't be 100% sure that it is really proteins on a virus that's causing a specific illness. We don't know how much the tests are cross-reacting with the many other coronaviruses that aren't that dangerous, that are already in humans. So we don't know. We don't know a lot, And if there's a bunch of asymptomatic people, it may just be that they're not sick, and there is no C. They don't have it. I do think something's killing people more than normal, but what is that? Is it lockdown, fear, shift sickness, or is it a virus? I don't know. There's so many things. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know. How many false positives are we getting? Yeah, I don't know. And it may be that in this timeline, one answer will come out, and in another timeline, a different answer will come out. So that might be why it's so flippy floppy, wishy washy right now, because maybe it just, timelines sitting on top of each other. We could be at the base of thousands of timelines right now. You need to watch Event 201 and Clad X videos. Yeah, but just because that's there doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. I think it's there to scare the crap out of you, and it does a good job. But there have been many instances in the past where there was a bunch of really fishy stuff, but the worst didn't happen. So I really do think we're in like fear porn land, advanced level right now. Like all the lessons that we learned in the last 50 years, now we're on the advanced class. So we had all those fear porns of things that were for sure going to happen for 50 years or however old you are, and they didn't. So now they've got to kind of they have to one-up it. It's like a TV show. When there's a long-running TV show, like, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer or any of those action-type shows. So the problem they have is each year they run this show, they've got to come up with bigger and bigger dilemmas and problems for Buffy to solve. So first she's just got to solve some vampires and undead zombies and stuff. And then she's got to deal with like a super strong vampire. And then she's got to deal with like the king of the vampires. And then she's got to deal with the opening of the Hellmouth. And then she's got to deal with the devil himself. And then it's always one-upped. I mean, once you get to one level, it goes one up. And I until you're like, what next? They run out of stuff. They have to end the show, right? So I think that's where we're at, basically. It's just a higher level of the fear porn. And also with that is a higher level of seeing stuff that opens your eyes. The Mandela Effect, the coincidences, the weird, everybody's just experiencing more and more weird paranormal stuff, more UFO stuff. Anything to shake up your reality is happening right now. So it's not just the Event 201 and all that stuff. If they showed how many people supposedly had it and recovered, people would throw their masks out. Very quite likely. And I think a lot of people want to do that now, but there's lawsuits and all this stuff, so don't let numbers scare you. In 2018, a total of 2,839,205 resident deaths were registered in the United States. 25,702 more deaths than in 2017. Okay. So then, I don't know, what did I find? It was like about 20% more this year. During certain months, no, during certain weeks, it was up 25%. I've covered this before. Now it's up like, I don't know, 5% or something death rate in the United States. One thing that's obvious, an awesome virus is... It's an awesome virus to dispose of old people if you believe in depopulation agenda. Well, then they're doing a terrible job in it, because even old people who get it, most of them totally recover. I mean, if they really wanted to kick off a bunch of old people, they suck, because they've kicked off a slightly larger percentage of them. It's just not. It's the people who die from it that have a high death rate. They're people who are going to die very soon anyway. There's very few percentage that are really like healthy and die. They ham up those stories, but I mean, the death rate's up what? Even if it's up double. So if your death rate among old people was 2%, now it's 4%. that's hardly going to kick off all the generational knowledge. Bill Gates himself says he will have ID for a depopulation program. Well, he talked about, he didn't say that. He said he thinks that there needs to be less population in the world. So there's that plausible deniability. So you can either assume he actually means some sneaky evil thing, or he just, I mean, media's been talking about the population being too much for 20 years now. I no longer worry about that stuff after seeing the Mandela. I just, whatever. I think it's another fear porn. I mean, just the fact that we haven't destroyed ourselves yet after the other 500 fear porns that I've seen in 50 years. I mean, it's even dumb stuff like, I mean, this has been happening for the last 5-10 years. There'll be like a terrible frost in Florida, and then they'll say there's going to be a shortage of oranges this year because of this frost in Australia, or this frost in Florida, or bad weather over here. There's not going to be enough oranges to go around. I go to the store, there's still 3 kinds of oranges. I don't know, maybe the ones from Florida aren't there, but I never had a problem getting my oranges, despite what they said on the news. And then they say, oh, there's going to be blah, blah shortage. And, oh, you know, there's not going to be, oh, and some restaurants had to stop serving such and such because they couldn't find any. I go to the store, there's still 3 kinds. Oh, maybe there's 2 kinds instead of 3 kinds. You know, like they said tomatoes, and then they said strawberries, and I was like, oh, no, that would suck because I like those foods. And I go, and they're still there. So this time, oh, there's going to be a meat shortage. So the price of meat went up for a while. It was like double, which kind of sucked. Now it's dropped down, and now it's like 30% higher. I don't know. Is it a meat shortage? I got meat. I'm eating it. I got the beef. It's in the store. You buy a cheaper one, or get chicken for a while. I don't know. It's not happening. Like all that stuff they say, it's just not happening. So. The U.S. is so used to thousands of obscure deaths daily, you're all immune to the numbers in that regard. Well, yeah, that's why I'm looking at all-cause deaths. You know, I'm like, if this is a pandemic, then we should see massive deaths. We're just not. In Australia, influenza average causes 1,500 to 3,000 deaths, about 18,000 hospitalizations, and blah, blah. Okay, so then what is it now? What's it this year? You know, like I said, I'm looking at all-cause deaths. It's up a little. Some states it's not up at all. Some states it's up by double. That was like New York. Although it's way back down now. So you can see the peak. It went up and it went back down. The other thing I've been really looking at was, let me show you this one. I already covered that one. Let me get to, am I frozen? Oh, great. See if I can just shut that one off. You know, I leave those when there's like 100 advertisements on one website. That's the kind of stuff that freezes the computer. All right, so this guy is totally fascinating. And once I figure it out enough to actually explain it decently, because he's an epidemiologist and he just speaks in his epidemiologist speak, which I really wish that he would just have it like terminology for dummies video somewhere. This guy, if I can ever get this to load, Peerless something or others. Let me find him. Really, computer, you can't load my favorites right now. Come on. Come on. Where'd it go? There. Oh, it's down here. Duh. I just found him recently. You can see he's Peerless Reads. YT channel. This guy is good. Peerless space READS. Peerless Reads. Epidemiologist. So he's going through a number of things. I wish he'd go state by state, but he's going country by country. I think he's from the UK or something. He's got some accent or another. I'm not sure. So what he's doing is he's looking at various illnesses like Ebola And what happens is at first they're spreading rapidly, and then slowly the rate of increase lessens until it goes back down. So there's like a normal curve. There's a that these illnesses follow. Now they may peak up higher, they may peak lower, they may be a little blip, but they all follow it. And so he was looking at the sea in most countries, and they followed it. So you can pretty much see once it's going, okay, we're right about here, but you're never really sure where the peak is. But then when it starts coming down, then you kind of know. So he's like looking at the patterns in every country, and they're very similar. So you can pretty much see how that curve changes. And then he's looking at where the lockdowns are. So some countries lock down earlier than others. And this is probably one of the reasons going state by state is not really useful, because most of the USA states lock down around the same time. But the different countries lock down at different times. And some of them were like early in the peak, some were later in the peak, some were right at the peak. And then he's looking at the rate of change of the infections, and he wants to see if the lockdown affected those. So he's right after the lockdown, it should be about 2 weeks, and then you should start to see some kind of an alteration in the spread. And it would be the rate of increase, which could go into the negative, meaning it's a decrease. Like a negative rate of increase is a decrease. So he's looking at how the curve changes. Did it just stay normal, or did the rate change and lower faster? Because if the lockdown works, then there should be suddenly, the rate of change should suddenly bend down, right? About 2 weeks, 3 weeks, at least some kind of observable number of weeks after the lockdown, there should be some kind of change in that line. And what he's seeing is that one of two things happens. Either there is no change, like the line just continues on as if nothing happened, or it actually gets worse. Like the rate of change, instead of dropping faster, it drops slower. So it really looks like the lockdowns are doing one of two things. It's either not helping at all, or it's making it worse. Okay, so why would it make it worse? I think there's a number of reasons why. You've got a lot of stressed out, scared people who aren't making a living. So like, with unemployment at 25%. So let's say 15% more people than average are unemployed and nervous and going bankrupt and stressed out. And of the ones that aren't that, they're afraid of that. They're afraid of all these things. They're afraid of the deep state. They're afraid of dying of the sea, whatever. They're all living in fear, or a bunch of them are. So you got this stress of that. Then you got, and this has kind of been brought up. They always say that in the winter is when you get sick more. That's why the flu season, because you're inside. They're like, oh, you're inside. So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, they tell us to go inside, but yet in the winter is when the flu season is stronger, supposedly, according to them, because everybody's inside. So telling everybody to go inside, wouldn't that just make things spread faster? Okay, maybe it won't, because you'll be inside your home instead of inside somewhere else. But I mean, who does giant parties and stuff in the middle of winter? They don't. They're inside their homes. So maybe that just makes it worse, having everybody inside. So maybe this outside thing that our genius governor of California is doing is better, at least, than the old lockdown. I don't know, but there's something fishy about the whole thing. It seems like a lot of the stuff they've done has just made it worse. All right, so then there's the mask wearing. Maybe that makes it worse because you're breathing your own carbon dioxide. I showed you a study last week that showed that the cloth, they studied the three branches, surgical masks, cloth masks, no masks, and the cloth mask got the most viral illness. And then it was the no masks, and then it was the surgical mask. So maybe cloth masks are a really big problem. They're making a big thing about it has to be cloth masks. I mean, we've had plenty of time now to make surgical masks available for everybody. Why are they still pushing cloth masks? I mean, shouldn't they be on the corners going, we got to get better masks? If masks work, let's get the best mask. We got to churn out these N95s and surgical masks so that we'll kill the virus even more. No, they're still pushing the cloth mask thing. And you know, that ship has sailed. We should be all, if this mask thing is real and it works, we should all be on at least surgical masks at this point. So why are they still pushing the cloth masks when they suck? There's something fishy about that too, now that I think about it. Cloth masks should have been a temporary solution until we got the better masks on board. That's the only logical answer there, if masks are so great, yet they're not. So anyway, check out this Peerless Reads guy. If you have you kind of have to be a little analytical, nerdy, that kind of thing to follow this guy. I mean, he doesn't make it that easy, but it's super fascinating. I totally enjoying his videos, although I have to sit there and actually concentrate. I can't just be doing my work and bopping around. He doesn't talk for super long, but so anyway, yeah, these he puts out a lot of stuff. Look, there's like 3 of them just today. It's really good stuff. It's what should be on the news, but in a little simplified form. He puts the charts up. He totally backs up every last thing that comes out of his mouth. It's good stuff. It really is. People at home spending more time on their devices and Wi-Fi. Not going outside causes cognitive symptoms. Yeah, all this news crap. They're not getting the vitamin D. I mean, there could be like 10 things that are making it worse. Bill Gates told Elon Musk to stick to making rockets. Yeah, I really do think that fighting it's going to be like Dems versus the Republicans. They're both. Elon Musk is pushing brain chips, okay, and Bill Gates is pushing quantum dot tracing. So they're really not, either one your friends. But I think Bill Gates is playing the old school established guy, and Elon Musk is playing the rogue rebel without a cause, but he does have a little bit of a cause guy. But they're both, I wouldn't trust either one of them. That's all I'm saying. I think they're just pretending to fight. There's a video that suspiciously shows George had no legs when he was put on the stretcher. Which George are we talking? Oh, we talking about? Oh, I'll have to look that up. It's kind of interesting. Let me just write that. We're talking about George Floyd, I assume. That one might be amusing. I've covered before that there's some hinky things about that. It could be staged. I mean, there's been quite a few similar incidents that happened in recent years, really similar instances. So why did this one suddenly go nuclear when all the others didn't? I mean, I don't know. Is it because people were all pent up because they were locked down? I don't know. I still think it's suspicious. Corona includes 25% of flus and 30% of common colds. Yeah, all that stuff is now the C. Although in the Australia numbers that I covered last week, it looks like almost, it looks like 99 or 97% of flus in Australia have disappeared because it's all the C over there now. Because I got the flu charts year by year for Australia, and it's like, last year, the year before, another one was pretty high. And then this year was, there was a little bump until around March. And then it actually went blah. And it's so close to the bottom it's so close to down here. It's close to zero that you can't even see the number because it's like that close to zero. It's ridiculous. So apparently the C cures the common cold in Australia, because Australia has never in its history had such a tiny incidence of flu. It's a miracle. George of the Jungle. Yeah, I assume they're talking about George Floyd, the one that got stomped on by the po and died, and hence all the protests and stuff. Transhumanism is big, yeah, and who's at the forefront of that? It's Mr. It's Mr. Tesla himself. Him and his girlfriend, who don't like the outside, don't like the sun, don't like the wilderness. They just want to live in the house. Anti-nature people. News goes nuclear during election years. Yeah, well, it sure has done that this year. They're both evil. I don't like either one of them. There's definitely something, especially for Bill Gates, for me. I didn't really follow Tesla before, and it seemed like he just, Elon, it seemed like he showed up out of nowhere. A lot of people were saying he was a Mandela for them. So it's interesting to see him kind of at the forefront of transhumanism. And then for me, Bill Gates has changed radically. He's all creepy now. He just was a normal dude before. Now he's all weirdly smiley, and he's got that duper's delight, and he's like a whole nother dude. So in Australia, they're saying the flu has been controlled by all the vaccines, more vaccines than ever. Apparently, you may want to. Are you serious? Since when did they have a vaccine that really does that much for flu? They say at best it's like 30% effective. So they're saying it's the Jillian vaccine. That's ridiculous. They don't have a vaccine that stomps the living daylights out of the flu. I didn't think of that spin. Somebody will fall for that. Maybe a couple people. Wasn't Tesla a good guy? I don't know. He kind of came out of the woodwork. And first he just had the private rocket program. And he was a bit of a blowhard and a big talker. And he's like this rogue rebel dude. But he's pushing this brain chip thing, which is totally whacked. For that reason, I don't trust him, basically. Because he just wants to chip your brain. I don't think it's a good plan. What did he name his son finally? I don't know. I don't think we even know how to pronounce it because they haven't admitted it. I did hear he had to change the name a little bit so that they didn't have any characters that conflicted with the United States government registry, but it was basically the same name with slight character changes. Musk was afraid of the AI. His basic attitude now is if you can't beat them, join them, which sounds ridiculous. Tesla may never have existed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what exists anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I keep saying Tesla, but I mean Musk. Mr. Tesla. If I say Mr. Tesla, I mean Musk. If I was just talking about him anyway. Get your brain chipped and make your kid an equation. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I've said before, I'm not really sure how many of these characters that are in the news are even real. I mean, maybe it's just part of the movie, NPCs. I don't know. I've never met them. I don't know. Did you hear what the British Columbia Health Minister said about dating? No, but I would guess he said, don't do it. And there was some weird things about how to do the wild thing that we won't talk about here. With a wall in between you. Yeah, I don't know if that was you guys, but somewhere that was floating around. It was hilarious. All right, cough it up. What did he say? You should check out Planet X News for the planet stellar cores that orbit our sun. He shows you actual pics from SATAs. What's a SATAs? Satellites? Planet X News. Planet X News. I don't think I know who that is. Is that a channel? Oh, yes, Shari. Okay, that was what I was referring to with the wall. Okay, yes. Yeah, I didn't want to say it because I'll be demonetized in 5 seconds. But yes. Yes, I did hear that. I just wasn't sure if it was the UK or some other idiot. Yeah, I know. Next thing, they'll want to separate families, less people in the houses. Yeah, I think they might go that route. They're already kind of talking about it. That's why I'm not getting tested. If the tests are unreliable, then they say you have the C and you have no symptoms, and who knows if you ever have it, but now you can't live in the same house as everybody else. And yeah, no, I ain't doing that. Taser survivor doesn't know what that that word means. Yeah, I only learned that word like 5 years ago thanks to the internet. Definitely do a Google on that. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it on this PG channel here. Yeah, just Google that puppy. I'm not saying it. Okay. Blah blah. Bill Gates is a reptilian. I don't know. See, if he's just an NPC, he could just be an image on a screen. He could be anything. And in Florida, they want people to wear a mask in their homes. Yeah, no effing way. I'm telling everybody, you know what? If they make you wear a mask, see if they'll let you wear a face shield. Because, I mean, a face shield makes your hair look ugly, but at least you can get air. You're not going to be rebreathing your carbon dioxide. So I don't think a face shield will hurt your health any. It's kind of bulky. It costs a few more dollars, but you can get a face shield now from Amazon for like $15. If you can get away with that, wear that instead. And if you're healthy and you only have to wear a mask for 15 minutes when you're in the store, I think you'll be fine. But if you have any breathing problems or if you have to wear it for long term, see if you can get the face shield. And if you don't know what I mean, it's these guys. I actually have one because I bought one before, a nice fancy one, for sometimes I'm grinding things with my little Dremel tool, which I have like kind of a beefed up Dremel called a Fordham. And stuff flies around sometimes. You don't want to get whacked in the face with little projectiles. So I got a face shield to protect my face. And that was kind of one of the main uses for these. But yeah, get a face shield. Because look, don't wear the mask behind it. But then air can get in and out under here. Your carbon dioxide does not build up nearly as much because there's so much airflow. I haven't seen any studies showing any serious carbon dioxide buildup under a face shield. As long as you don't wear the mask too. See, these people are overkill. They got the doubles. But, yeah, definitely, like, there's 5. They're selling them pretty cheap. They've got, like, packs of them, and they're, like, a couple bucks each if you buy a big pack from Amazon. Supposedly, Amazon's selling them at cost. Okay, so, but you can get one for 10, 15 bucks. I would just check for comfort on these things. I don't know why no prices are going to show up today. Heaven forbid Amazon should make it easy. So that one's 19, but there was other ones. I saw some for like 14. Look, this one's $6.99. If you got to wear it all day, I would definitely look for one that's comfortable around the head. And it's not great for your hairstyle unless you have styles like these women. But hey, you know what? You can breathe. I mean, I'm just saying for people who are stuck wearing these, like your boss makes you do it or whatever. I know a lot of California has been terrible, so. Terrible. If I had a nuke, the Vatican is where I would send it. They're pure evil. You know, I just wouldn't waste your breath on those. I wouldn't let them work you up. Hatred, anger, fear. I think it's a bad idea to get sucked into that path. You get what you concentrate on. So there's people I think are up to no good, but most of the time I can't do anything about it. I just accept that that's what happened. Not that I like it, but I don't want to get sucked into that anger, hatred, fear thing. I think that's part of the trap. Did anybody catch a video of the Pope disappearing like he's a Dan hologram? Yeah, I saw that. I think I had it on like a month ago. Those are so tricky because you just don't know if somebody did some little bit of video editing. It was very easy to do that. Very easy in the current era to so many thousands of people could have whipped out a video like that. So we don't know. Did it really happen or is it video editing? There's no way to know. The comments under the news about the UK funny business. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't personally know anyone that tested positive for the C until yesterday. A friend I've known since the 80s. I've heard of one person who tested positive for it. From what I can tell, they didn't really have any serious symptoms. So, I mean, actually this year, the amount of people with the flu have been so little. I don't know anybody personally that had any kind of flu-like illness this year. Not the flu, not the C, not anything. Used to be people entering a store with a mask was the problem. Now if you don't wear a mask. Yes, I did cover that last week, 2 weeks ago. The newer video uses electromagnetic waves to see right through your mask. So the bank knows what you look like whether you wear a mask or not. Although I have to say that I was depositing a big chunk to cover my end of the truck I just bought. And they did ask me at my one bank to flip up my mask for 2 seconds so that the video could see my non-masked face. Not that I had a problem with it. I mean, and if anybody did, they could just hold their breath for the 2 seconds. But so yeah, they don't care if you have a mask now because the big stores and the banks, they can see through your mask to your cranial structure, your facial structure. We should not get sucked into hatred, but also not be naive. Middle way. Yes, the middle way. The middle way. The Zen Buddhist way. You don't deny, but you don't get sucked in. It is what it is. You don't have to agree with it. You do what you can, but then for stuff you can't do anything about, you don't get sucked into it. Florida was hit hard with the flu. I had a down week just before all the COVID crap popped up. Well, yeah, last year, but this year, no. I mean, since January, no. My crazy niece and nephew are forcing my sister to check her temp every day and have tests almost every week. What kind of test? Hopefully it's just temperature. I certainly wouldn't want to be getting a giant swab stuffed up my nose every week. Yeah, I wouldn't be going to the hospital getting weird tests. Can't see through mask. Yes, even with infrared face imaging camera. I know about the infrared. I don't know all the ones they use, but a friend of mine, close friend, was talking to somebody who does security for these places. All right, so here's an example of an infrared. Whether you have a mask on or not, they can see right through. And these are interesting because even if it's dark out, they can see all this. The camera can see all this, and it's more effective than just regular video. And then they can take the regular video also and compare. So they'll have like two, then they can combine them. So they'll have like 2 or 3 different information areas that they can combine and get a really good layout of your face. So what he was telling me is that the mask, they have methods using certain frequencies that look right through the mask. It sees right through the mask. They're not really demonstrating this on here that I could see, but it sounds legit to me. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. These are just the infrared ones, but he was saying that they have a little bit different frequencies. I mean, I can't prove it, but it sounds really plausible to me. And the chain of information that I've heard is fairly decent. And maybe they were just talking about this infrared, but The swab test looks painful. Yeah, and there's stuff in that thing way back in there. And remember that there was a shipment of the swab PCR tests that had to be shipped back because they were pre-contaminated with the sea. They were found to be contaminated with the sea. So, you know, if you want to get paranoid, that is not going to make you feel any less paranoid. So, like, I'm saying, like, think of it this way, okay? Every time they say, oh my God, that guy had COVID, or that, you know, I know 3 people who were diagnosed with the C. What if you change the word to, I know 3 people who were diagnosed with the nasty flu, okay? Because that really is kind of what C seems to be. It's an extra nasty flu. From what I could see, it kills more people than the regular flu, but it has basically flu-like symptoms. And the death rates are up because it's a really bad, nasty flu season. But they've got you programmed to hear the C word and freak out. It's months of programming to freak out if you hear it. But if they just called it a nasty flu, you'd be like, okay, that's something I'm familiar with. And even if it gets a little worse, I can handle it. So, oh my God, I know 3 people with the nasty flu this year. It sounds totally different in your mind, doesn't it? This guy died from the nasty flu. Every year people die from the flu, but they usually call it pneumonia or respiratory failure or whatever. How long is this? Because I want... You fall asleep if you're sleepy and then watch it on the replay, man. You don't have to stay up live for it if you're sleepy. Facial recognition works with the mask. Yeah, well, they can tell by just your eyes, but they can also see through the mask. So there's a whole bunch of things. I think the long-term effects of a virus can be deadly, so they are being very cautious. The long-term effects of a flu can be deadly. The long-term effects of a tiny cut that get on your finger that gets infected can be deadly. All of these statements that the news make are so vague. The long-term effects of playing video games every day, sitting on your butt, can be deadly. The long-term effects of like freaking everything can be deadly. So yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying context, perspective. Chickenpox and shingles, yeah, far more dangerous, and yet no lockdown. All right, so how many people die of chickenpox every year? Of the ones that get it, you are not receiving it. I might really be buffering because look at this yellow warning thing. So I apologize. I'm going to turn off some of this extra junk. Yoinks. All right, I'm going to actually talk about the Mandela. It's a miracle. All right, I better crank along too. So, okay, who found this one? This one was found by Mark Tyrus, commenter on the channel, and this one is really funny. You know what? All right, I'm gonna try and say it carefully so I don't get demonetized, because I have a feeling that if the wall for the funny business of the COVID did not get me demonetized, I probably should have put this one last. I'll try to say it carefully. Just read what I'm typing in right there. All right, so there's this frog that looks like a certain thing. They're calling it the scrotum frog. Could be on its last legs. Have you ever heard of this frog? This is a new one, and it just happens to live in Lake Titicaca. All right, let's see if this is gonna load. And it's a really big frog, one of the biggest in the world, in case anybody was worried. And it's on its last legs. So what I say that means to me is that it's new Mandela. It's a new creature. I bet it will change. Some of them have more bumps on them than others. They say the older they get, the more bumps because they're a big frog and they breathe through their skin, so they need more skin so they can breathe. So they make these big bumps that just happen to look like a certain human body part. And they just happen to live in a lake that sounds kind of like a funny name. And they just happen to be one of the biggest frogs in the world. And I've never seen these in my many hunts for strange looking frogs in the last couple years, but there you go. So some of them look more normal, and then the bigger ones get these giant double bumps. What do you know? And they're almost extinct. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna come back in 3 years. They're probably gonna be like in every lake in the nation, the way the Mandela's been going. All right, so that was from Mark Tyrus. These things are not new. They've been known since 1960s. They are known to grow 2 feet long, so that's a big freaking frog. Oh, and of course they are, because it doesn't get funny enough, they are endangered in a large part because people eat them, because they are considered edible and also an aphrodisiac. So they've been over harvested because it isn't funny enough. You got to add that in. All right, that's number 1 wacky thing. All right, the thumbnail. Another weird name, Longyou Caves. Longyou, Longyou. Is it a coincidence that it long time humans, Longyou? Is it a coincidence that that sounds like something in English? So these things are really interesting. I've been looking for weird cave things, and these kind of kicked me in the face. It was yesterday, I think it was yesterday. I actually heard about it on another channel that was covering mud floods. So these caves, first of all, the wiki is about, unless it's changed since earlier today, it's about half page long. Okay. Tiniest wiki in the universe. They're infamous. So these things were discovered, what, some kind of ridiculous, not that long ago, 1990, 92, rediscovered. So there's these giant caves. So supposedly they were big, people thought they were just big holes with lots of fish in them. And then for some weird reason, somebody decided to drain one. And found out it's this giant ancient cave from over 2,000 years old that has these weird like tool marks kind of thing. All right, so this cave thing, and then there's a bunch of them. There's not just one. There's no written history of who made them, no historical documents. The details of the caves are all over the map. I mean, you'd think that if they were out since the 1992, there would be some kind of cohesive, comprehensible statistics on size and thing, but no. They're huge, 11,000 square feet inside, heights up to 30 meters, which is 98 feet. Ceiling, walls, and surfaces all finished in the same manner as a series of parallel bands. They look like they've been chiseled in these weird parallel bands. Maintain their structural integrity and appear not to interconnect with each other. So I've seen them considered a matrix of caves. Then I've heard that they don't connect. Then I've heard that they connect within inches, but never any breakthroughs. I've heard that they have ancient carvings of birds and horses that indicate that they might be from a certain tribe. But then when I look at the photos, I cannot find these birds that are supposed to be from this tribe. I see one horse-like creature, and the carvings look all brand freaking new, and the descriptions of what's in the carvings do not match anything that's written down. Here's one of them. This photo keeps showing up. It's not birds. I don't know what the F. All right, so this is the most common ones. You can see like a dude riding a donkey and kind of the classic looking carvings. Now, one guy was on saying that this was new stuff that the Chinese added to make the caves more interesting. But then that was just one guy, and I can't find any info if these are old or new carvings. They look new. And then you've got this dragon thing. But I can't find these birds and other things they said indicate that it might be from some old tribe. And there's no written stuff mentioning these newer looking carvings. So these things have been around for 30 years, known about, and yet, you know, I mean, is this all recently carved? Is it old? It looks like people just working and stuff. I don't know what the F. I mean, what's this thing? Is this the original one? All right, so you can see these groove things that totally looks machined, like some kind of machine scraped it. Like melted and scraped, machine scraped it, whatever. So the reason these are all super creepy is because they're huge. The pillar structure is really well done. It looks machined. Some places are saying there's 16 of them. Some said there's 24. Some places are saying there's 36 of these different caves. Photos just seem to show like the same cave over and over. And then they're saying there's like hundreds of these weird fish ponds. So maybe there's hundreds of these caves. So this is like, I think this is like a brand spanking new Mandela, because the wiki is 5 inches long and there's hardly any photos. The few photos there are quite interesting, though. Really quite interesting. There's so many of these weird underground things coming up. So apparently, in current timeline, these are a big conspiracy theory because of these scrapey lines. Like they look like they're made by a machine or something. So yeah, Longyou caves. I mean, let me see if I can get a better one. I mean, look at that. That looks like brand new, like they just scraped it out. So I can't find any info on. So there's like this. I don't know what's going on with these caves, but keep a sharp eye on these, because it looks to me like we're going to get more changes on this. Everything is totally a 30-year-old. It's been known for 30 years, and the information is sparse and completely schizophrenic on these. It looks like got a steel frame with shotcrete sprayed over it. Yeah, but these are like underground limestone land regions. So, but yes, it does look like it's got some kind of crappy shotcrete job. I agree with you. So, you know, in this timeline, it's evidence. There's a lot of weird stuff where could they melt stone and reshape it? That it's like there's all this evidence showing up for that. So maybe we're going to get that. Maybe that's going to become the new storyline. Cuke has vitamin A, which produces collagen. Where is this cave? Longyou Caves. It's in China, in the Zhejiang region. Zhejiang. Zhejiang. And you know, when I was looking this up, there was some really interesting Reddit stuff. Most of it was just from like 4 months ago. People were on Reddit going, wow, only 30 years. It's been out 30 years and there's hardly any info. Why is that? And then this other person saw, I lived in Zhejiang and I didn't even know about these. And I'm so bummed because I love this kind of stuff. And then there's all these confused people going, what the F? Where did this come from? How come there's no info? How come I never heard of it? So yeah, I think it's like brand spanking new. Dated few vegetarians, they never had energy. You know, it does seem like that from ones I've known. These are the die-hard vegetarians. They don't do eggs. They don't do milk. You know, they don't do nothing. And in the past, they weren't even big on taking vitamins. I think it's more push now, but... There's actually been quite a number of people who were vegetarians and then they just ate meat and got a ton more energy. I think our requirement for B vitamins kind of is strong evidence that it may not be ideal. But, you know, there may be some people who can get enough vitamin B. Their needs may be low. They can get enough from fruits and veggies or some other source and a vitamin pill and be fine. And you may feel better if you stop eating McDonald's crap burgers, which are probably worse than meat, and French fries for dinner, and you might feel like way better for a while. I think that's one of the things, when you switch over to a new food, you may feel really good at first because you may have given up a bunch of crap food. And like if you suddenly become vegetarian and eat healthy, you might feel really good for a month until your B vitamins that you've stored up kind of run down. And then you might start to feel more tired, but it's gradual. And you remember how much better you felt when you first went on the diet. So it's tricky like that. It's tricky like that. And most people eat meat or eating McDonald's and crap burgers and junk foods, and so you compare a healthy vegetarian diet, you'd have to compare it with a healthy paleo style diet or balanced diet of healthy foods to really compare. And there might be genetic differences too. Some people might do really good on vegetarian and some might do really crappy. So there's just a lot of factors. I've definitely known people who did terrible on vegetarian diets. Some people seem to do fairly good, but I know these two people, they switched to vegetarian, they grew a pot belly. I think it's just like too much noodles and stuff. So I just try to eat more balanced, some meat, but not McDonald's burgers, and some vegetables and some fruits. But just don't eat crap, no crap foods. It seems to work for me. All right, so where am I? Longyou Caves. All right, this one. Oh, I think. Oh, you know what? I got this. Okay, this is not from anybody. This is from a Reddit channel, but it wasn't about the Mandela. So, all right. So apparently, the fax machine was invented before the telephone. Image facsimile transmitter patented in 1842, about 30 years before the telephone. We could already transmit code over wire by telegraphy. He dreamed up a technique to adapt an on-off telegraphic signal to reproduce a document. I think I've covered stuff like this before, but I haven't covered this exact thing. I don't think I might have. Not really sure. Anyway, Alexander Bain. So the faxes were invented in 1842 using the telegraph machine. Not in my timeline. All right, this one comes from Shari D. And this corresponds with something I've been hearing on the mud floods. Okay, so on the mud floods channels where they're talking about the Tartarian buildings, like these ancient fishy buildings that are supposedly possibly come from a different era, and maybe we didn't build them. One of the arguments they make is buildings from Tartaria do not have bathrooms. Okay, but I'm thinking, I never learned about any of the ancient buildings. Like in the medieval times, they had chamber pots. They didn't have bathrooms. They had outhouses kind of where but they didn't have anything in the building. They had outhouses and chamber pots and a big hole in the ground or whatever. But in this timeline, a lot of the old buildings, or some of them, had like these toilets built in. And basically there was just a big long hole that it just went like way down. But I've never seen anything like this until Shari brought it up, and she found it like 2 or 3 weeks after I started hearing about it in the mud floods. And I've been following the mud floods for at least a year, and suddenly there's like a little tube or something, or it would just drop down into the outside of the castle walls, into the moat. I've never heard that the moats were filled with poop, but apparently in this timeline they were, because of these medieval toilets. There's another one. I'm like, what's up with this one? It's right by the freaking door. It's craziness. There's another one. Some of them had tubes going down. Another old one. Oh, Thunderbox, is that what they're calling it? I've never heard of that term. I didn't even see it last time I looked at Thunderbox. There's some more of them. Are you freaking kidding me? Ancient history. So now we had these Thunderboxes. So you could just, it's kind of like pooping over the rails. I guess that's the theme of this show. I wonder if I've been demonetized yet. It's only a matter of time. Okay, so yeah, they have these now. I've never heard of them. I've definitely heard of them going in a chamber pot and pitching it out the window, but I've never heard of them having these toilets like this. I mean, it's logical now that you think about it, but never heard of it. There's another one. You know, and I've seen a lot of pictures of castle walls and stuff. I've never seen these little outcrops like this, like anything that even looks like this. I've never seen that before. You'd think you would have just seen it, and maybe you didn't know what it was, but you would have seen it in all the many. And they should have had these on everything then. Look at that. I mean, you'd see that. You'd be like, what's that outcropping thing? I mean, it's not, you know, it's not set up for weaponry. It's not set up for weapons fire. I mean, they're like little pustules on the side of these castle wards. Guard robes. High tech during medieval times. Guard robes. Never heard of that word before until Shari mentioned it a few days ago. Good find, Shari. All right, next one. Skyquakes. All right, this one comes from Retconned. Username Breezy Morn, BREEZYMOURN. I've discussed these before, but they've got a word for it now. They, whoever they may be, the Matrix, the universe, the people in charge. I don't know who it is, but you know those, like those funky trumpet noises that have been reported all over the world, that we started talking about those right around the same time that people, around 2014, when the Mandela was kicking in as far as knowledge and common knowledge of Mandela. Right around that time, there was these weird trumpet noises. I swear one of them sounded like the TARDIS from Doctor Who on one of the videos I saw, and I'm like, is that for real, or are they like making fun of me? Because you just can't tell anymore with the Mandela sometimes. So they're calling them skyquakes. And there was no terminology that I could find whatsoever in the first few years that I really researched these. I haven't looked in a while, though, so I don't know when this showed up. But they're skyquakes. They're also wrapping sonic booms into these. Sounds like a cannon, trumpet, or a sonic boom coming from the sky. The sound produces shock wave that can vibrate a building or particular area. I've not really heard that particular bit of info. They have been heard in several locations around the world. Such locations include the banks of the river Ganges, Marwari village in Himachal Pradesh, the East Coast and inland Finger Lakes of the United States. I think I've covered before. I've never really heard of Finger Lakes, but I have covered the sounds there. The Magic Valley in south central Idaho. I've not heard of that either, I don't think. As well as areas of the North Sea, Japan, Australia, Italy, Drogheda, Bettystown, Slane, Dundalk, Ireland, Pune, blah, 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 blah. You get the picture. They've been all over the place. Skyquakes. So, yes, we have a word for them now. All right, this one I saw earlier today. Need iron or I bruise and get black circles. Yeah, I actually, for a while there, and I was in college, and who knows, because the whole Mandela thing has changed my body a lot since then. But when I was in college, I used to just eat the way I wanted, which was actually probably fairly healthy, because I would have a little bit of vegetable and a big slab of meat. I wasn't eating too much junk. A little bit, but not too much. I tried to eat more. I decided I should eat more healthy, so I cut back on the meat, and I started eating more rice and pasta. And then I was told I was anemic and I wasn't getting enough iron. The doctor said I was healthy but anemic. I mean, like, I didn't show obvious illness, but so I had to start eating more meat. Maybe if I ate 3 tons of kale, I don't know, but kale is gross. I'll tell you, glowing's me. If you take kale, raw kale is disgusting, but there is a recipe that makes it good. And you can find it online, but basically it's a little bit, it's kale, and you cook it just a little in some water. You just, I don't know, it's like 3 minutes. You just cook it down a little, and then you drain off the water, and then you put coconut milk in there and a little bit of cooked bacon bits, like real bacon. You don't have to put a lot of bacon in, but I'll tell you something. Cook kale with coconut milk and bacon. Just cook it up a little bit more, and it's quick, it's easy, and it's good. It is good. Do not knock kale until you try that, because I will eat kale, and I will like it in that recipe. Coconut, all you need is coconut milk. You can buy it in the can. Kale and some bacon. Just, you know, next time you make bacon, save a little bit. And it's fairly cheap. I love collards with peas. Glowing, you must be Southern. Yeah, you know, I don't like sour food, and collards are sour. Cooked kale, not bad. Collards and bacon fat. Yeah, bacon fat makes things taste a lot better. Also, you know, a lot of vitamins need fat source for your body to take it in up. So it is good to eat a little fat with any salad and a lot of vegetables. I love spinach. You know, I don't like cooked spinach because it's all like, I don't know, the texture, and it's kind of sour. But I love fresh spinach, so I just put it in like a salad. It just tastes like salad greens. Spinach is not gross if it's just fresh salad greens. It just tastes like salad. It doesn't taste like anything. So yeah, and if you can do coconut milk and bacon, try the kale that way. It's good. I've never had anybody not like it. Also, like, cabbage isn't too bad. It doesn't have, you know, that bitter taste. The bitter taste of the kale is defensive enzyme produced by the plant. I gave it to goats. The goats develop goiters. Yeah, well, you know, you've got to have the other vitamins and stuff that you need for the thyroid. So if you're low on those and then you wail on the kale, yes, you could have a problem. I don't eat kale every day. And if you keep the other vitamins up, then you'll be all right. And it depends on you too, though. But yeah, you gotta watch the balance there. Kale can cause thyroid problems. Anything that blocks certain vitamins, if you don't get enough of those vitamins, can. There's a whole bunch of traps like that. So yeah, balance. See, cabbage can do the same thing as the kale. All of that family can do it. They've got good stuff in it, but they have other stuff that can cause a problem in high amounts. So it's tricky. Very tricky. All right. Saw this one earlier today. All right. World War II, women, women that worked in World War II, known as the WASPs, WASPs. What did they do? What did the WASPs do? The women who worked in World War II. I mean, remember Rosie the Riveter? There's a lot of Mandelas about her. A lot of people remember her older and like a big buff muscle and kind of a little bit more butch looking. And now she looks like this. This is kind of an older ME. It's changed a lot for me. She really looked like she could smack you on your butt for me. And now she just kind of looks like a little bit pouty and kind of wimpy and a bit of a poser. This is the new Rosie the Riveter. She just looked a little bit more like she meant business. That one, I mean, like the old one, I wouldn't want to mess with her. This one, she kind of makes me laugh. So yeah, a lot of changes on Rosie the Riveter. All right, so wasps. Don't look now, no cheating, just from memory. And if you saw that documentary in the last 2-3 weeks, it doesn't count. You got to go back in the old memory. Yeah, the iron in the kale is not at the levels you get from red meat. Yes, very true. And I think there's variation on, how well you digest different sources, because the iron comes in different sources. And it may be that if you come from a genetics that was very vegetarian for millennia, generation after generation after generation, you may be much better at digesting vegetable material than if you, say, had an Inuit background or a very northern background. I mean, if you look at the northern region people, they couldn't, they ate a lot of meat because there's just not that much greenery around in the winter. So you may not do nearly as well. If you come from a really tropical region where there's a lot of plants and it's fairly easy to find plant material for generation after generation, then you may do a lot better on a vegetarian diet. So you have to consider those too. Rosie was thicker. Yeah, she looked like she could really punch you hard. This girl looks like some kid at a high school trying to look butch, but she's not. This girl it just doesn't, I mean, like, she looks like a bit of a poser to me. Yeah, she had a wider face. She just looked more, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say butch. She didn't look like she was gay, but she just, she wasn't like this petite thing trying to look like she was strong. She was a woman that was really actually strong, and she didn't look like a poser. Yeah, she looked like she was like 50 or something. But okay, but that's not the Emmy I'm covering today, because that's an old Emmy. Last I checked, I mean, sometimes the timelines switch around, but the new Emmy is, what do you remember WASPs standing for? If you remember them, do you remember the female WASPs, that WASPS? It stood for something, and it was women who worked in World War II. Do you remember what they did? What it stood for? I'm just going to make sure this isn't old. A lot of you have not heard of this. Riveter Mandela Effect. Let me just make sure it was covered. Yeah, see, 2019. All right. So, yeah, like a little over a year ago. Yep, February 2019, March 2019. Oh, this is interesting. We can do it poster smiling or not smiling, alternate memories. I do not remember her smiling. That is a Mandela I've never heard of. People are reporting they remember her smiling. That was in 2018. And with a bigger arm muscle. I do agree with the bigger arm muscle. But I don't remember her smiling. I do remember her kind of having a tough expression. But it looked natural on her. She didn't look like a poser in the old version. This is a timeline I don't remember smiling or not smiling. I mean, even this Mandela smiling or not smiling, I don't remember. So nobody remembers the wasps, huh? Okay. I think I may have only heard of the wasp a couple years ago, but what it stood for me was, let me see, where is it? Women Air Force Service Personnel, WASP, Women Air Force Service Personnel, WASPs. Just women who kind of worked in the military as a support structure, because like the men were all out fighting, and so the women were helping out. They were WASPs, right? So it was kind of a Rosie the Riveter thing. Okay, but what It stands for now, at least as of earlier today when I saw it on TV, is it stood for Women Air Force Service Pilots. So now, women were pilots in World War II. And there was like a big contingent of them, like 1,000 something. Now, they didn't fly direct attack flights, but they were used for flying airplanes here and there. They also flied experimental planes at times. Some died. They were used to fly when people were doing target practice. They would fly them, and other people would shoot at them to practice their ability to shoot at planes. She's not smiling now, is she? So that's WASP. So women were, yeah, she's not smiling now. This look is about right for me. It's just a whole different face and a bigger, buffer looking arm and an older looking woman. You know, more like my age. I mean, even this woman is closer, but she just has to be older without her freaking stomach showing. But at least this one actually looks like she could punch you at least. See if there's any residual. This is more like it without the funny face. But yeah, about that age, some kind of muscle. This is more like the feel, but not that catty wink face. Yeah, not much residual, though. Yeah, so anyway, yes, WASPs. World War II. So women were pilots in World War II, and that one's a big one for me, because no, they weren't. The original Fly Girls. I just remember that term being kind of like women who were a little wild. Not that they actually flew. Women Air Force Service Pilots, Civilian Women's Pilot Organization. So they're talking about, oh, well, they were veterans, but they never got any credit for flying, and they didn't get all the benefits that men got. The 75-year legacy of the WASP, Women Air Force Service Pilots, were established during World War II. So, yeah, no, they just, no, they were personnel for me. They were not pilots. So, a Mandela for me. Doc the God is going to bed. Take care. You can always watch it on the replay. How long have I been running for? So I've been running for... How long has it been going for? You can check the time, and then you can know when to start it. I used to say up here somewhere how long I've been yapping for, but now I can't find it. Anyway. Well, it should be like 2 hours. So yeah, check after 2 hours. Yeah, more women pilots in history. Yeah, exactly. More English lies. The red polka dot headband. Yeah, actually. I don't think I remember that polka dot headband. Now that you mention it, yes. I don't remember that. Before Emmy, I never heard of women pilots. Well, there was like, what was that famous one that disappeared and she was the first, what was her name? I got another name stuck in my head. The famous missing female pilot. She was the first to fly over the Atlantic Ocean in my timeline, but in this timeline she had a co-pilot, which was baloney, phony balonies, but in this timeline it's true. Look up the 1919 pyramid. It's topical. All right, let's do it. 1919 oops, that's not going to help. Pyramid. Glass block warehouse. All right, we need more info. New York pyramid. Let me add that in. New York. So is this one of those oh, is this that glass house? Oh, no, wait, that looks different. When Park Avenue had pyramids of 85,000 German helmets. I've never heard of that. That's creepy. 85,000 German helmets? Where would you get that many freaking helmets? I mean, you're fighting Germans. Everybody's hauling all these helmets back. And then, like, if soldiers had them, they're going to cough them up for this pyramid? No, you're going to keep them. That's really fishy. This interesting picture taken in 1919 shows employees of the New York Central Railroad at a celebration in Victory Way, showing off a pyramid of recovered German helmets in front of Grand Central Terminal. It's Grand Central Station, you mofos. Okay, so double Mandela, pyramids plus Grand Central Station. There were over 12,000 German Pickelhaubes on the pyramid. Pickelhaubes, never heard of that. Sent from warehouses in Germany at the end of the war. Okay, so they didn't get them off of all dead people. Yeah, I guess it's possible. I've never heard of it. 12,000 helmets were erected at each end with the other German war equipment. Pickelhaubes. Check that out. Yeah, no. Okay, I mean, I guess I could have not known about. I wonder what this statue thing at the top is. Now I'm all curious. Oh, is it the top of this one? Fishy. Any more images of this thing? Pickelhaubes. I gotta say, my German's not that great, but really? Why does everything sound fishy nowadays? There's not many pictures of it, is there? That doesn't show the top. What is that thing on the top? It's like some woman with a... I wonder if we're going to see more of this thing so I can figure out what this thing on the top is. Suspiciously cut off in a lot of these images. Why would you, if you are making a photo, why would you cut off the very top? I mean, that's like the world's crappiest choice. I mean, sometimes you're close, you don't have a choice, but wouldn't you try to get the last 2 inches of stuff on the top framed inside your photo? Pile of bison skulls from the 19th century bison hunts. Huh. All right. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to find out what that is. Sometimes these things circle back around and there'll be some kind of weird conspiracy theory attached to it. And for these pinnacle point decorations have been much popular in the conspiracy world. That's one of the reasons I'm asking. Also, a lot of these old photos, a lot of the photos, when I look at them, they look like they have fake elements in it, and this is one of them. It just looks, that doesn't somehow look real. And that was never the case in old photos for me before. Everything in there looked like it belonged in there. I'm not really convinced that is necessarily the case, but I wonder if it might come out to be the case down the line or something. Huh, yeah, okay, yeah, weird. I just wonder if something's going to come out of that. I seen the bison skulls. Oh, interesting. I have not seen the bison skulls. It's the god Nike, the god of victory, though. The god Nike. The god Nike? The god Nike. I don't know anything in this timeline. I have never heard of the god Nike. I have never heard of, like, anything in this freaking timeline. The Nike was a goddess who personified victory. Her Roman equivalent was Victoria. You know, and I studied all this Greek and Roman mythology when I was in school. I have never heard of that being a god. Nike. Images. I Any chick with some kind of victorious pose, I guess, is Nike, or like a circle thing. That kind of opens it up to interpretation, I think. But some of them, she doesn't have the circle thing, so it's like a chick with wings, and maybe a circle thing, which I guess is that some kind of leaf garland, Greek garland. What is that leaf they always used? Okay, don't know. Got that one, got that one, got that one. Okay, speaking of mythology, this one is from Divided We Fall, commenter on the channel. Good find on this one. So I've covered like half of this before, but apparently Vikings in reality never had helmets now. I mean, never had horns on their helmets. That's just a myth. They never actually wore horns. Did the Vikings wear horned helmets? Well, believe me, the answer is going to be no. There's little evidence that Viking age helmets ever had horns. And they don't have any helmets that had horns from the Viking times, and they're blaming it on that maybe a few helmets with horns were found from other groups that were not Viking, and then somebody in the early 1900s or something mistakenly assumed it and perpetuated the stereotype. So that's the current storyline. I'm quite sure that they did have horns at like a couple years ago. I've already covered in the past, although you may not remember, that when I worked at a certain place, we had replica Romans with that brush thing on their head. And then my boss is like, and few people realized that Romans never actually had the brush helmets, and that is just a stereotype. And so I went home and I looked it up on my internet to see if he was right. And sure enough, Romans never actually had the brush helmets, except for like a year ago, suddenly it became canon again. So it's flippy floppy. So Romans had the brushes, then they didn't when I was at work at that store, and according to the entire internet, and now they did again according to what I saw a couple days ago. Vikings did have horns when I looked it up, because I looked up a couple things when I looked up the brushes, the Roman brushes, and I looked that up, and at that time Vikings did have horned helmets. It was true, and now it is a old wives' tale. But speaking of creepy, like, face accoutrements, I found another one while I was hunting. So good job, Divided We Fall, commenter. All right. Remember Henry VIII? He's the guy that had the turkey, the giant turkey leg, who now only had a little gloves thing. Well, there's this other creepy thing. They call this the iconic helmet of Henry VIII. Well, for me, there was an iconic turkey leg, but there was not an iconic helmet of this type. But apparently, we're supposed to have seen this funky helmet thing, if it will ever load. Derp, derp, derp. So what I've been seeing is, I remember the fancy helmet things. They basically it was mostly just headset things, and your face was open. There was a few things where there was kind of a thing that would close over your mouth and your eyes, okay? That was the extent of it for the face coverings of helmets and armor. But now I'm seeing, this one's extra weird, okay? I'm seeing a lot of actual face replicas worked into the metal. Like, their metalworking skills were obviously better here. This is by, like, one of the more creepy ones. So this one was supposedly a gift to Henry VIII, commissioned in 1511 by Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I as a gift for the young King Henry VIII The helmet would have been part of a full armor worn by King Henry for court pageants. Okay, so first of all, you can see where I got it because I was kind of sticking in like horns and stuff to see what kind of helmet things I came out. And I came out with this, okay? So this was for Henry VIII. What's up with these spectacles? Okay, it's totally weird. So this is supposed to be armor. So we got this funky face. We've got this spectacles. What's up with this mouth? What's up with these horns? So I looked these up, and the story is like spectacles were like the sign of a jokester or something. They didn't say they were glasses though. They're calling them spectacles. My brain was like, psh. Okay, so when did people start wearing spectacles in the current timeline? Let's see, where did I write that? Okay, glasses wiki. That's what I need to look up now. So yeah, Henry VIII had the weirdest freaking armor thing made ever. And when were spectacles invented? This might be why the monocle had to go away on Moneybags, Monopoly Man. Maybe spectacles go further back in time, and so they didn't have the monocle thing. All right, so where did it go? History. Here we go. So 10th century. Apparently, they go back to approximately the 10th century, which is way earlier than I remember it. And you can see this image here. If it's big enough, I don't know. It might be too puny. Yeah, that doesn't really help. But it's the exact same look as those ones for Henry VIII. So you don't really see a lot of monocles now. We've got this spectacles thing. And so it goes back to the 10th century. So Henry VIII was, quite a bit after that. So it wouldn't be weird for Henry VIII to have glasses. I don't remember them going back this many hundreds and hundreds of years, though. So let's see. Scattered evidence exists for the use of visual aid devices in Greek and Roman times. So they had like some kind of glasses things in Greek and Roman times now. The use of an emerald by Emperor Nero, as mentioned in Pliny the Elder. I don't see how you can look through an emerald and see anything better, but the use of a convex lens to form an enlarged magnifying image was most likely described in Ptolemy's Optics, which, however, only survives in poor Arabic translation. Ptolemy's description of lenses was commented upon and improved by Ibn Saul, 10th century, and most notably by Al-Hazen, Book of Optics, in 1021. Latin translations, Ptolemy's Optics of Al-Hazen, became available in Europe in the 12th century, coinciding with the development of reading stones. Actually, I should click on that. Okay. So, is an approximately hemispherical lens that can be placed on top of text to magnify the letters. The regular use of reading stones began 10,000 AD. Early reading stones were manufactured from rock crystal quartz. Okay, makes sense. You could get one of those and stick it like in something. I don't know. I actually don't know how well that would work. Well, you could use reading stones, but if you just put it on your eye, I don't think that would work. I'm gonna have to try that. I've got to have some clear stones somewhere that's quartz. The function of reading stones was replaced by the use of spectacles from the late 13th century onwards. Written between, Treatise de Reed on the Rainbow, written between 1220 and 1235, mentions the use of optics to read the smallest letters at incredible distances. Okay, so that's definitely going to be something on your face then, because you're reading it at a distance. All right, so anyway, I think this goes way back longer than I ever remember glasses going, is the point of this story. And seeing like one of these old paintings of Henry VIII with freaking spectacles, or like this freaking armor with mock spectacles. I don't know. My brain is like, psh. So that's all I got to say on that. No, that's not right. Sauerkraut isn't German? Are you serious? You know, I've had some real suspicions about the spelling of sauerkraut. I remember it more like this, but now it's sauerkraut. I'm not 100% on that. All right. Well, who invented? I can't say I really know who invented sauerkraut, but I think the spelling has changed for me. The current spelling of sauerkraut looks really fishy. Sauerkraut, German, sour cabbage. Scientific discovery, no. All right, that's not helping me at all. History, let's go there. Although sauerkraut is a German word, the dish did not originate in Germany. Some claim that the Mongol Emperor Genghis Khan brought it to Europe. Genghis was really busy in this timeline. Like, I don't know, some kind of ridiculous percentage of the Earth's population is related to that boy. He conquered a lot more stuff. Apparently, he invented sauerkraut now. Others claim it originally came from China. Not a huge difference there. In surrounding areas, and the Tatars brought it. Tatars, which were Tartars, and were in Russia for me in a small area, and now the Tartars turned into Tatars, and they had owned half the planet, and they're wrapped up in the Tartarian conspiracy theory. Today's one of those days where everything is just kind of interestingly connected. So the Tartarians invented sauerkraut, maybe, or maybe it was freaking Genghis Khan. Too funny. Too funny. Yeah. I can't tell you I knew for sure the origin of sauerkraut, but that story is freaking suspicious. The Pyramid and the Nazis marching in New York came out at the same time. Could be. That was a while back. I thought Nike was a messenger, but yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar from a couple years ago. Nike was a messenger. And it made more sense that there was a shoe after Nike, because shoe is like travel, right? Interesting. There's been a lot of shifts around in a lot of the mythology, though, a lot. I mean, look at all the new Egyptian mythology with that god that has a giant bug for a head, beetle. That's me. That's how it tastes to me. More Khazarian appropriation, stealing our real history. Well, Genghis and the Tartarians, you can't trust those two. Moon lunar worship demands blood offerings. Sacrifice. Sun worship is supposed to not require that, but both seem corrupted. I haven't heard, well, I don't know. I haven't heard of anything in this timeline. It's all weird. Hardly anything. Oldest vending machine was 1 CE, dispense holy water. All right. Oh, we gotta look. When was the oldest vending machine? 1888. Thomas Adams Gum Company, selling gum. All right, well, according to this, it was gum. Who invented the first vending machine in ancient Greece? All right. So that kind of blows 1888 away. Look at these timeline stuff, can't even get their crap together. One of them says 1888. Now we've got one in ancient Greece. Come on, you people, get it together. Hero of Alexandria invented the first vending machine. He is our hero. He invented the vending machine. The vending machine was simply one of his many inventions. He also took a keen interest in mechanics. Blah, 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 blah. In addition to inventing and studying the mathematical and scientific world, in addition to inventing, I'm assuming they aren't saying he invented math. Who knows in this timeline? Evidence of the first vending machine can be found in his book Pneumatics, which not only describes that particular invention, but some of his other works. What is especially interesting about this machine is that it was coin-operated, which is now most of the vending machines that are around today. They didn't dispense candy and snacks they do today. Rather, the first vending machine was in a temple to dispense holy water. Okay, so this one fits your storyline. And definitely this is older than 1888. When the right amount of change was entered into the slot, the mouth at the bottom would open and holy water would dispense for use in the temple. Kind of ironic that it was a religious thing, don't you think? Very ironic. 10 AD. So what, 10 years after, shortly after Jesus, they were already asking for money. At least in this timeline. Sauerkraut is Asian. So yeah, Andela, good find. 10 AD for the first vending machine. Rocco Donald, can you ask me a question? Shoot. If I see the answer or the question, I'll probably answer it. You can ask it. I'll probably answer it. But it depends on what it is. I never promise anything without seeing it in advance. Reading stone. So basically a reading stone would just be a stone that's rounded and it kind of reflects the light and makes stuff look bigger. Actually, it makes sense. If you take a big rounded quartz stone, you could probably... Actually, it's really a smart plan, reading stone. If you couldn't see very well, it'll magnify the letters. So it's kind of interesting. Songs that are catchy is out. Yes, I've been on for 2 hours and 27 minutes. So if you want to catch it, the tail end, come in at 2:27 on the taping of it. The ancients had better tech. Retroactive tech seemed to be the indicator of the butterfly effect. Yeah, it's going backward in time. Who can explain it fully? Okay, what else we got? We're coming down the home stretch here. Glasses wiki. Okay. Oh, more Easter Island Mandelas. This one is from Omega Man. Commenter on the channel. Good find. Dutrobonnier. Let's try that. Spelling. Bonnier. All right, so more change in the storyline of Easter Island. So now there was this story, this guy bought most of Easter Island in 1834. No, well, not right then, but in his lifetime. Let's see. He became a mariner, and by 1860 was a master mariner. So he gets to Easter Island and he buys most of it up. I've never heard of this particular part of the story. The last I checked, well, in my timeline, the island was how come I can't speak English? Abandoned. There was nobody there. Nobody knew what happened. There was just these funky statues. They were all heads. And there was a big mystery. So in this timeline, the Easter Islanders never died out. They became sparse in number for a while, but the island was never abandoned. Last I checked, there was some kind of storyline about like white people or mariners or whatever bringing disease to the island, which wiped out a bunch of the islanders, and others were taken as slaves, and so that had really depleted the population. But that was about and the other changes were that now there was writing, that the Easter Islanders had a form of writing, because they didn't in my timeline, and that was part of why there was a big mystery, because there was nothing written to explain what happened. So last I checked, it was disease and some were taken as slaves. But now this guy, Dutrou-Bornier, at one point, like, bought up a bunch of the island. He seized Pua Aku-Renga Koreto, the wife of a Rapa Nui, and married her. He tried to persuade France to make the island a protectorate, recruited a fraction of Rapa Nui whom he allowed to abandon their Christianity and revert to their previous faith. He and his supporters ran the island for several years as governor. He aimed to cleanse the island of most of the Rapa Nui and turn the island into a sheep ranch. He bought up all of the island apart from the missionaries' area around Hangaroa and moved a couple hundred Rapa Nui to Tahiti to work for his backers. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. In 1871, the missionaries, having fallen out of favor with Dutrou-Bornier, evacuated all but 171 Rapa Nui to Gambier Islands. Those who remained were mostly older men. 6 years later, there were just 111 people living on Easter Island. Only 36 of them had any offspring. So now the new population pinch was not so much due to disease and slavery as this dude, Dutrou-Bornier, having bought up and driven out most of them. This is really new. I've not heard of this. If you look at, let's see, other histories, other changes. I'm not going to dig it all up because I can't remember where I found it all. But other changes I've seen. Let me just, actually, this one I do want to. So I kind of took a quick peek around to see what other things changed and smacked me upside the head. One of them was this line of statues got longer. It was just about, like, these last 5 or 6 weren't on there. So this is like growing. I'm like, are they going to go all the way around the island or something? Also, look at the noses. The top of the nose. Speaking of certain frogs that look like a certain part of a certain human, the noses are kind of looking like that. It's like the subject of the show today. They did not used to look like that before. Who has the giant snoozles like that big? And then the flatheads, boink. Them's just some weird looking people. They're looking less people-like. This is actually more how I remember it. But look at those noses and look at the eye ridges. They're weird looking. They got weirder looking. They look cartoonish now. Look at the big ridge line under the snoozle here. Like, you got your normal nose and then there's like this big lump under there. Who has a nose that has a big ridge here? You have a dented ridge here, but you don't have a giant bump line on the underside of your nose, but these guys do, and I don't remember that thing. See if I can find a better image. It kind of shows it there. Here, I think this one shows it. Look at, what's this thing on the snoozle here? Sorry, you know what we always call my dog's dog noses? We call them snoozles, so it kind of slipped out. Nose. I don't know why you can't just call a dog nose. You have to call it something funny. Well, what's this curly business here? That looks like a pig nose or something. That looks like a cow nose. The cow noses are like that now. The cow noses have changed for me, but they've got this curly business going on. What's this freaking thing? Oh, I've not seen him look like that. What is that? That's new. Okay, I just found that like just now. That can't be. Let me just see if that's really on there. That is a new style. Um, the smashed head style? Is that really? Okay, so this is the part under the nose I was just noticing. Look at how long that line of statues is. Was not that long like 6 months ago. Let me just see what other photos pop up here. Look at that nose. Whoosh. Look at the top of that head. It's a pinhead. That's weird. That there was not that style of moai last I checked. Oh, what? We're gonna get nothing but advertising now. I'm just so wrong. What the heck is this? That's okay. I did see those short ones last time, but they didn't have a face like that. Let's see if I can find more like this. Look at the giant nose and the tiny mouths. That seems to be the only one like that. There's only that one photo. I mean, there's a guy walking that looks like they really have some of those. Okay, so they're different in different parts of the island now. Look, there's only one photo that I can find of these snout-faced men. This one looks a little fishes too. Fishes. I don't remember. I've seen this photo, but I don't remember them. Okay, first of all, I don't remember it being nearly this big. Them digging this out. This one is huge. Also, I don't remember all this corrosion on the head. This one has gotten a lot bigger. So yeah, there's been some changes. Can't find any more of these giant nose creatures. Just one photo of the giant nose ones. Okay, what's this? All right, I think I already had that one on. So yeah, I think we'll find more of those I don't know what you call it, trumpet-nosed versions will show, I'm sure. Just keep... That one might be really hot off the presses. I found only one photo here. Just the one. How do I get rid of it? It's on that side now. Only one photo. Really, Mandela? You couldn't cough up like 2-3 photos? Okay, there's that photo and that. And this one... That one looks like a drawing from... This one looks like a drawing of this photo. Yeah, so basically we have one photo of these snoozle ones and one drawing of the exact same photo, and that's it. Highly suspicious. I think those must have just come hot off the presses because there's like nothing. They didn't describe what those were. Like why they look different. Okay, so yeah, Mandela's. Okay, so what other things did I find? So now apparently there was like this Birdman. First there was like one kind of culture, and they're describing all the... Let me just go through it a little. I'm gonna have to... Rapa Nui Wiki. Because it's probably going to change again, so we probably should cover it decently. All right, who was it? I think it was Shari D was talking about it being a special territory of Chile now. That one showed up, I don't know, what, like 4 or 5 months ago. I don't think I discussed it on that show. It was kind of a smaller Emmy. But now that we're here, and I'm pretty sure it was Shari. If it wasn't, I apologize, whoever it was. I did kind of notice it, but it just didn't go into my head really until somebody else kind of mentioned it specifically. Rapa Nui is in Oceania now. I don't recall it being specifically said to be in Oceania. Easter Island is most famous for its nearly 1,000 extant monumental statues called moai. Okay, so they have info now. They're believed to have arrived on Easter Island near 20 AD. There's an oral tradition of when they came there that the Easter Islanders now have in their memory. Before, we had no knowledge of any of that. Now they're saying that the deforestation may have had something to do with the Polynesian rat getting on the island that led to gradual deforestation. I don't really see how the rat, like a rat, deforested the island. It seems kind of like hokey. Like, doesn't freaking every island have rats, yet they still have their freaking forests? So that's really suspicious, but by the time of European arrival in 1722, the island's population was estimated at 2,000 to 3,000. Okay, now we have the diseases story, Peruvian slave trading story, immigration to other islands, reducing it to a low of 111 native inhabitants in 1877. So apparently these guys don't know anything about Jean-Baptiste Dutroux-Bornier, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it's so new it hasn't made it into the wiki yet. Chile annexed Easter Island in 1888. Oh, that one is one we don't remember. And it became a special territory. Blah, 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 blah. All right, the whole etymology of the name, I didn't really know that before, but oral tradition states the island was first settled by a 2-canoe expedition. Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask about how the breeding happened there. The island was first scouted after Haumaka dreamed of such a far-off country. So there's this whole story now. All right, then there was, by the 15th century, there was 2 confederations of Rapa Nui, the Hanau groupings and the Mata, based on lineage. There was some splits along the island on territory. This continued till the 1860s, and famine followed, and then the burning of huts and the destruction of fields. Social control vanished. The statue toppling commenced. Okay, my old timeline, there was no statue toppling, although some fell over from old age. But apparently in this timeline, almost all the statues were purposefully pushed over. This was an attempt by competing groups to destroy the socio-spiritual power or mana represented by statues, making sure to break them in the fall to ensure they were dead and without power. None were left standing by the time of arrival of French missionaries. Okay, so the ones standing now apparently were put back together. All right, so there's a storyline that after all the troubles, they went in and they got this new culture kind of. It was kind of a thing in their culture, but it took precedence and kind of took over, and it was the Birdman culture. And they've now got this Birdman iconography. Never heard of this. Birdman, Easter Island. So all of this story is it was just really vague hints at this, and now there's like this whole storyline that's all fleshed out. Birdman motif of Easter Island. So there's the Birdman with this giant snoozle. This giant nose. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so I'm just noticing that this kind of is looking like how some of those statues were looking with the really long nose thing. So I'm wondering if some of these statues are turning into these Birdman-esque, Birdman look. Yeah, look, here's some more of it. I've never seen this before, but this is in a period of Easter Island. It was now preeminent for over 100 years. You can see I don't remember there being any carvings on Easter Island other than the mysterious heads, which are now bodies. Okay, so look, here from the front, you got this giant nose thing. So, I wonder if they're going to start saying these are helmets. Just wait, just wait. That looks very helmetiferous. Give it time. It's coming. Pretty soon they're going to say it was evidence of alien spacecraft. Just wait. Give it time. It's coming. I bet you. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think there's a really good chance. Yeah, never seen this Birdman thing. So, just kind of checking it out. I wonder what that is. There's so much of this weird stuff now. There's not enough time in the day to even research all this. You kind of have to just pick a few and keep an eye on them. But yeah, Easter Island. Art of Easter Island. What the F is that? Okay, I'm assuming that's modern. All right, I gotta click on this. Is that old? Maybe this Birdman thing, it does have like a bird butt. '19th century. Huh, okay. I guess it's old. So that's the Birdman stuff. Look at that snout. That's all new. The lower abdomen is really weird too. Are these like, it almost looks like they're going to be movable or something. It looks like I don't know, the hair, it looks a little bit like a certain president we know, and a bird body. That almost looks like some kind of weird political commentary joke. Bark cloth figures do have legs. They are de-emphasized and not seem to affect the overall body proportions. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Got that one. All right, that's most of it. Okay, almost done. Yeah, it does. It looks like it does. Its hair. Well, that's true. Okay, yes, that's true. Trump is not that skinny. The island is also 3 to 4 times bigger. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was looking at that suspiciously earlier today, but I just wasn't sure. It's really long now. I don't remember it like, I saw an image of it going on and on and on, and I'm like, I don't remember it being, I knew I didn't remember it being that shape, but I really wasn't sure on the size, so I just wasn't, I don't want to bring it up because I wasn't sure on that one. That's bullshit. The mud flood toppled them. Well, I mean, in my timeline, they were just heads. And a few of them were over to the side a little because they'd kind of listed to the side, but they weren't toppled. So no mud flood in my timeline. Or at least the heads weren't toppled. Oceania Eurasia straight up 1984. I know. Oceania was not a word in my old timeline other than that book. I've said that one a lot of times. Next, we will read They Died of the Big C. Oh, you know. Well, disease is already on there. There were no dugout Easter Island heads. Yeah, because there was only heads. Exactly. Yeah. That one image really looked like a helmet. You know, then they got these little tiny heads, too. Like they're heads, but they're... The irony, okay, they were giant heads, but actually their actual head is getting really small now. And then they got this big face. You gotta laugh. So the Easter Island giant bald heads are now growing to have a bunch of hair and are actually small heads with big bodies. You cannot make this stuff up. This is the timeline, like, trolling us. First time I heard of Oceania, it was in Lost. Yeah, Oceania was one of the 3 main territories in the book 1984, which has interesting parallels, definitely, to a lot of the stuff we're seeing today. All right, so I got one more. It's getting late. If I can just read my writing, I will really scrawl this one. Signs of... There it is. All right, so we talked about what was that, like, second moon that sort of didn't have an orbit around the Earth. They're calling it the second moon. There's some other ones that are doing that now, similar to that Croy, whatever the heck they called that one. And then there's so now there's another couple of moons, but not moons, that they're saying are actually in orbit around the Earth. The terminology is weird. Okay, so I've been following this moons around Earth for a couple years now, and I sure as heck did not find this, but supposedly it's been here since October, around 2018 later. Dust clouds that orbit Earth like moons, may finally have had their existence confirmed after more than half century of controversy, new research finds. Of course, I've never heard of any of this controversy. In deep space, there are 5 points where the gravitational pull of Earth and the moon balance each other. This I just heard of last year, this gravitational balance thingy. This was found by H. Chappelle, commenter on the channel, H-C-H-A-P-E-L-L-E. Good find. More moons. Let me see if they use that word. Yeah, Lagrange points. I just heard about that about a year, maybe 2 years ago. I heard it more in regards to the sun. So some kind of a gravitational balance point that now they're talking about Earth having them, but I just remember it being in the back of the sun. The 2 of these so-called Lagrange points, L4 and L5, form an equal-sided triangle with Earth and the moon and move around the Earth as the moon. So basically they're saying there's these dusty patches and 2 of these Lagrange points where there's like a balance between the gravities of the Earth and the moon, and these dusty clouds are like collected there, and then they orbit around the Earth like moons. So they're calling them moons. I'm really suspicious when there's a word that kind of foreshadows something, because it seems like the Mandela likes that kind of thing. So so you got these dust particles, and they're like a moon. So it seems to me like it could be that there could be start to be like asteroids in there. So right now they're saying, well, we didn't know about them because they were really faint, which really sounds like cockamamie to me. Like we couldn't see something that close. We can see things outside the freaking universe, but we can't see a dust cloud near ourselves. But I'm thinking what we're going to see is these dust clouds kind of slowly becoming more and more. And then there'd be there'd be rocks instead of just dust, and there could be an asteroid or this, and these could turn into like moons, or like a moon is in it or something. So just keep an eye on these development of these. Let's see, what are they calling them? I know they don't have much name for it now. I think we're going to get a better name than L5. So dust moons. I don't think it's a coincidence they call them moons. Follow our planet from afar. Oh, yeah. The Kordylewski dust cloud. In this image, the central region of the Kordylewski dust cloud is visible bright red pixels. The straight lines are traces of satellites. The L5 point is white. Okay, so this is the Lagrange thingy they were saying. And so I guess the dust clouds are around it. I'm going to have to click on some of that. Now researchers suggest they may finally have confirmed that the pair of dust clouds is real. The scientists detailed their findings in two studies on September 1 and October 1, and that was 2018, I would assume. The Kordaluski clouds are exceptionally faint, and whether one can see them with the naked eye or normal cameras depends heavily on the state of the weather. What the heck is a Kordaluski's cloud? Kordaluski cloud. I don't know what that is. I just saw this one, like, what was it? Earlier today when I was jamming through the comments. I'm a little behind on the comments, but I mostly caught up. So if you, apologies if I missed some of the recent comments. I should get caught up by next week. I was kind of an airhead lately. I just can't get my brain together. I wake up, I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. Kordaluski clouds are large concentrations of dust that exist at the L4 and L5 Lagrangian points of Earth-Moon system. First report. Okay, so those are the Kordaluski clouds. So there's two clouds, but they're both called Kordaluski. I don't get how they're saying that they're visible with the naked eye or normal cameras. How can they be visible with the naked eye or normal cameras, but we've only clarified that they're there in 2018? That makes like absolutely no freaking sense. So you can see it with a naked eye and a camera, but the scientists weren't sure until 2018? Are exceptionally faint, and whether one can see them with the naked eye or normal cameras depends heavily on the state of the weather. That makes no freaking sense. I don't know if everybody's just completely stupid or if this is just timelines all on top of each other so nothing makes sense. How in the freak can you sometimes see them with naked eyes or normal cameras and not have any scientific evidence until 2018? That can't be right. Images of the purported location of Kordaluski cloud revealed polarized light reflected from dust extending well outside the camera's field of view. This matches predictions the scientists made of how a Kordaluski cloud would look. The Kordaluski clouds are two of the toughest objects to find in that they are close to Earth, as the moon are largely overlooked by scientists in astronomy. It's intriguing to confirm that our planet has dusty pseudo-satellites in orbit. Well, if you only even knew about them in 2018, then why would it be surprising they're largely overlooked? But yet, if you could see them with your naked eye, then they shouldn't. None of this makes any sense. They are often seen as potential sites for space stations, the Lagrangian points. So, like, they're potential sites for space stations, but nobody checked to see if they were full of anything? Oh, there's a bunch of... You know, every month that goes by, reality and the internet articles, and didn't anybody writing this article go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Let's see what the wiki has to say. At least, I mean, the wiki can be helpful for at least figuring out what the official storyline is. Ooh, this wiki is like 5 inches long again. Oh, this must be a hot one. So, yeah, really good find, H. Chappelle. I think this might be like a really new Mandela. First of all, none of this stuff makes any sense. It's like it hasn't sorted its story out yet. Kordaluski began looking for photometrically confirmable concentrations of dust at the libration Lagrangian points in 1951. First seen them in 1956. Photographed them in 1961. In 1967, J. Wesley Simpson made observations of the clouds using the Kuiper Airborne Observatory. In October 21, the existence were reported to have been confirmed, even though earlier in 1992, the Japanese High-10 space probe, which passed through the Lagrangian points to detect trapped dust particles, did not find an obvious increase in dust part levels above the density in surrounding space. Okay, so that's even weirder. So they sent a freaking space probe there and didn't find anything, yet they were confirmed and seen, but none of that makes any sense. The Kordylewski clouds are a very faint phenomenon comparable to the brightness of Gegenschein. They are very difficult to observe from Earth, but may be visible to the unaided eye in an exceptionally dark and clear night sky. Okay, so again, you can see them with the freaking eye. Most claimed observations have been made from deserts, at sea, or from mountains. The clouds appear somewhat redder than the Gegenschein. I think the Gegenschein, I think that's that weird luminous glow thing that I covered last year. They're about 6 degrees in angular diameter. The clouds can drift up to 6 to 10 degrees from these points. Other observations suggest they move around the Lagrange points in ellipses of about 6 by 2 degrees. Okay, I'm going to look at this Gegenschein. Faintly bright spot in the night sky centered at the anti-solar point. The backscatter of sunlight by interplanetary dust causes this optical phenomena called the counterglow. You know what? I have not heard of this counterglow thing. This is new, Gegenschein. This is not what I remember seeing before, so I'm putting this one down as Gegenschein. Come on, pen, make it work. Gegenschein. Counterglow. Night sky. Yeah, Gegenschein is new. I was, before there was that weird greenish color glow thingy that I was seeing in the night sky photos, and but no, this is some specific area called counterglow. Ooh, and it's a 5-inch long wiki again. I call Mandela. Zodiacal light, that is the one I was looking at last time. So it's not zodiacal light. Gegenschein is sunlight scattered by interplanetary dust. Most of this dust orbits the sun near the elliptic plane, with a possible concentration of particles centered at L2 point of the solar system. Okay, so that's that thing we just talked about, the Q and I'm too tired for this. That guy who just found those clouds, those clouds. Okay. Gegenschein is distinguished from zodiacal light by the high angle of reflection of the incident sunlight on the dust particles. It forms a slightly brighter elliptical spot directly opposite the sun within the dimmer band of zodiacal light. Okay, so directly opposite the sun, there's a weirdly bright spot, which makes like complete opposite land sense, because you would think that the spot directly opposite the sun with the earth in between would be like the darkest freaking spot. But no, apparently due to Gegenschein, it is the extra bright spot. Reflected by dust particles. That's how in the heck do all these dust particles somehow make the spot opposite the sun brighter? Like, you got the earth and then you got the sun, and then somehow over here is an extra bright spot? It's high angle of refraction of, let's see, angle of refraction. The angle of incidence is the angle between a ray incident on the surface. All right, it's just getting too complicated. I'm going to study that for like a year to understand what they're talking about. The intensity of Gegenschein is relatively enhanced because each dust particle is seen at full phase. What? An astronomical observation is the angle between the light incident onto the observed object. It's a freaking dust particle. Dust particle at full phase? Ah. This is the new strategy of the Mandela, is to get like so freaking complicated for every explanation that your head like freaking explodes, and then you just give up. And it's working because I'm not going to try to figure that out. Other than it sounds whack. There's the scientific explanation. In modern times, the Gegenschein is not visible in most inhabited regions of the world due to light pollution. Huh. Okay, whatever. There's a new one. And that's it for me. Let's see what you guys are up to, but we're almost done here. I remember when I was a kid wondering why we drew the sun in yellow because it wasn't that yellow. You know, it wasn't like freaking screaming yellow. I mean, it wasn't like yellow like this highlighted Once Upon a Timeline. So I would draw it a little yellower than it really was. But it was yellow, though, and it's not now. It wasn't yellow as a screaming mustard yellow freaking pen, but it was yellow, and now it's not. Although when it's setting, sometimes it looks a little yellow. And weirdly enough, I feel like the light itself is yellower here. Like the light tones of when I'm looking at stuff look yellower. But when I look at the sun or near it, the sun itself does not appear that color. And it's bigger in the sky. Yeah, I think so, definitely. Gegenschein. Gegenschein. I thought that was German. Especially anything with the shine. Well, let me see. Gegenschein. French Jesuit astronomer and Professor Esprit Pézenas. Further observations were made by the German explorer Alexander von Humboldt. It was also Humboldt who gave the phenomenon its German name, Gegenschein. Yeah, so it is German. I did say that correctly. She would be a little embarrassed if I got that wrong. Gegenschein, another German word. Yeah. Another cover story as our reality goes wacky. Yep, it's a Mandela-splaining. Although who the heck knows anymore? I mean, was the old reality real and this one not? Or were they all just stories and the story just keeps changing? I really don't know. Maybe we just went from like a less weird story plot to a more weird story plot. So now it's so obviously weird. I don't know. I don't know. Atmosphere bending light rays. Yes, but that's a Mandela for me. The atmosphere did not bend rays all the way around like that. Yellower light bulbs might influence one perception. No, I don't think so. It was kind of all of a sudden like, too. I think that's another Mandela splaining, dude. It's all the light bulbs did it. Like, when was it? One thing I've really noticed the last couple weeks, especially this week, time is flying even faster. I'm like trying to do like one thing and it's like 3 hours to do it. I'm like, that's an hour-long job. And I was doing it quickly. You kind of know when you're cruising along efficiently and when you're not. And when you're cruising along efficiently and then suddenly like some kind of stupid amount of time has passed. What was the dumbest Mandela splaining I heard for time Well, there's the one where, oh, when you're older, time is faster. Well, it doesn't happen in like 2 weeks, for starters. And then another person was blaming it on Facebook. Facebook is making time seem faster. I'm like, I don't even look at Facebook like once every 6 months, so it's not Facebook. Don't Mandela splain me. I mean, maybe it's good. I've kind of given up trying to get any kind of reasonable amount stuff done, and I'm in a better mood. It was really chapping my hide because I just have like a certain amount of things I want to get done, and it was just couldn't get it. And you work for yourself. Time is money, or work is money, or who knows if it even is now. I mean, I don't know, but I got to let go of that because it was making me nuts. Let's fast forward to the end. This sucks. Yeah and no. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff on TV, but if you just walk outside and look around, some people are wearing masks, but things aren't that different. I mean, all of the things that are bugging me are pretty much in my head, like watching TV and worrying about stuff and looking online and seeing these conspiracy theories, albeit with much evidence for them, but watching these and worrying about it. But if you just walk around outside, everything's fine. The world's not really that bad. I mean, on the ground, I got a new truck. That makes me happy. My business is going fine. We don't have, people are relatively healthy. Time seems faster because we don't sit around bored anymore. Now, no Mandela splaining. My actual life has not changed much since 2011. I have the same job, got the same kind of work. I mean, little bit variations, different products, but I'm pretty much doing the same freaking thing. I got the same general schedule. On my time off, I do different things. I've gone through different phases of things I like, but no. I know how long it takes to take a photo of something and make a listing, and it really shouldn't have changed. In fact, I should be faster than ever. I can slam through it now because I've done it so much. I know everywhere to click. I know all the buttons that change the photos to make them look the way I want. So no Mandela splaining. I am not accepting it. And it was a Native American sacred site. What are we talking about here? Astroblem. What the heck is an astroblem? I'm certain it was on a ley line, but I don't know if it was an astroblem. Like, every day is me learning a new word, or 5 or 10. Astroblem. An eroded remnants of a large crater made by the impact of a meteorite. Okay, I might not have known that one. That's kind of a geology term. I can say that would be one I might not know. My life changed so much I don't know what time is anymore. I feel better like this when I kind of just went, if I don't get anything done, I don't get anything done. Can't believe it's August. I know. The one thing that really sucks is like trying to keep up with the taxes and stuff. I'm like, how does anybody find time to do? It used to be not that hard. I would work on it for hours in the morning, and I would have put a giant dent in the amount of taxes I got to paperwork. Seems like I just had to shop for one little part for the truck, and it took like 2 hours. It was ridiculous. China will invade the U.S. after the natural disaster strike. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's more fear porn. I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. What the heck are they going to do with us if they had us? Like we could even control like Afghanistan, not, or any of those countries we invaded and ever keep a lid on it, and it just became a giant money sink. There's no point in it. They make way more money off of us with us buying all their stuff. I don't know what they would want to do with a whole freaking country. Time moved the same as it used to move for you. For me, slow. When I was at Native American. Oh, I see. So you're saying when you're in the astral blem, time moves slow. I don't know if I could really tell so easily if I was doing different things, like completely novel things, because I wouldn't have an idea of how long they took. If you're not really doing anything, it's harder to measure time. So I wouldn't be able to say for me personally. Speed of light slowing down beats me. I don't know. I mean, it's in the Bible that the days will go faster, so they are going faster. Yeah, and I just it's getting harder and harder to use, what is that side? The left brain, which runs the right hand. Left brain just seems to be lagging. My right brain, which is the intuitive side, seems a lot more active. I think it's part of the shift. Left brain is struggling to stay with the program. I think it's being more suppressed. I think ultimately we need a balance, but you know, it seems like things are getting cranked hard, and maybe if we can just kind of slow down a little, maybe I'd have more chance to kind of sort it out. But there's definitely times where I'm just like, so many times now, it's just like, duh, what was I doing? Everything seems fine, but I can't. It's like being on drugs or something. Yeah, left brain's, I don't know. Left brain slows down time. Sounds good on paper. Who has been buying the buildings and mineral rights that Clinton was selling to the Russians and Chinese? What would they do with more space for their 1/3 of the population? China's got a ton of space, dudes. It's a big country. Now that they did that one child only thing there, they actually need more population to support. So they've got empty cities, for God's sakes. They got space. I don't think they need it. All those empty freaking cities. Yeah, no. I think it's just it's another plot fear porn thing. There's like 500 of them a day. What are the other fear porn plots? There's gonna be the solar flare, EM pulse. There's gonna be the pole shift. Okay, there's that one. Climate change, of course. That's always. They just got done. They're kind of petering out on that we're going to run out of water now with the desalination plants. Of course, deforestation and running out of fish. That was like last year's news. And of course, we have the sea and the mutated sea, and then the other pandemics all lined up in a big row. That fear porn. Global economic collapse. There's that fear porn. We've got the what's the other one? The deep state takeover, fear porn, and we've got the Dems fearing the Republicans and Republicans fearing the Dems, fear porns military takeover, fear porn, the rioters destroying the country, fear porn, the loss of the police, fear porn. I don't know, take your pick, there's so many. I bet those empty cities are filling up now. I mean, not like you can really trust the news, but from everything I hear, no, they're not filling up. I mean, the whole idea that they would build giant, massive cities, and then not fill them makes no sense whatsoever. After the first one, you'd think they'd go, we're not building any of those anymore until that one fills up. I've heard some kind of cockamamie story, there was public funds earmarked, and so they just built them anyway, and then they were trying to stimulate the economy, or I just don't get it. I think I just, none of it makes sense. It makes about as much sense as the coin shortage, or even less. Nothing makes sense here. Well, anyway, it's 3:20 in the morning. I managed to complain about how nothing makes sense for 20 minutes, so I think it's time for me to go to bed. Time has sped up so fast that I usually lose 1 or 2 days a week. Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to lose it by the week instead of by the day. I'm thinking they were government backhanders and contractors making money, so they keep building. Yeah, but the country has to give them money, and I think that after one or two empty cities, even the top people might notice that there's 100-story tall empty buildings and like cut off the money supply. They have lots of money, lol. Well, then you could argue the same about any country then. I mean, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. No Mandela splaining. I'm not gonna jump on the Mandela splaining boat. All right, it's time for me to shove on off. You guys had a lot of good contributions this week, so thank you so much. Very much appreciate it. Show the cities. Just look up Chinese empty cities. There's a bunch of them. They've had a bunch of documentaries on it and stuff. Anyways, thank you all so much. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.